Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host and co-moderator for this afternoon, Carmencita Toledo.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. And good morning to our friends in India. Welcome to this webinar presentation, Creating Solutions with Communities, brought to you by the Ramon Magsaysay Transformative Leadership Institute of the Ramon Magsaysay Awardee Foundation, co-presented by GUNSH India. I will be hosting and co-moderating this afternoon's webinar. Thank you to all of you for taking time off from your busy afternoon schedule to join us in this very important, very crucial conversation. We are very happy that we are doing this webinar with a powerhouse of community leaders and innovators, all the way from Marawi and Zamboanga in Mindanao to Bacolod City in Visayas and here in Metro Manila, to engage in a dialogue and conversation with our Magsaysay Awardee all the way from India and his team in New Delhi. We thank our speakers for their generosity to share to all of us their wealth of experience in community work, especially during disaster. We are very grateful that they will reveal to us the secret of their success and share a good dose of lessons from failures and challenges they encountered in their journey. On what else they will talk and share this afternoon is something we all look forward to as we begin our webinar. Knowledge sharing platforms such as this forum is one of our strategies in RMAF to continue to promote and share the practical solutions of the Magsaysay laureates to a wider sector. We hope that by doing this, we will all create bigger ripples of good, of right, and of just in our respective spheres of influence. This afternoon, we will have the pleasure of learning from transformative community leaders, led by ANSHU GUPTA, founder of GUNSH India and recipient of the Ramon Magsaysay Award in 2015. Joining ANSHU this afternoon are some of the country's leaders in disaster relief and response. We will get to know all of them later. A very unique feature of this webinar, which we introduce in this attempt to be online, and something to really look forward to, is our travel to New Delhi, India, without need of COVID tests or Indian rupees for pocket money. The GUNSH team from New Delhi will take us on a virtual field trip as we tour the GUNSH facilities, where they process all the material contributions they receive from their supporters and volunteers. Indeed, this promises to be a very exciting afternoon, so let's get the ball rolling. To welcome all of us this afternoon, I would like to turn over the Zoom grid to two of our top leaders in the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation. First, to our Board of Trustee and Chairperson of the Zwilig Family Foundation, Mr. Ernesto D. Garilao, to give us the welcome remarks. Immediately following Mr. Garilao's remarks, I would like to request our principal webinar moderator, our past chair and a trustee of the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation, now the current president, Ms. Emily Abrera, to introduce this afternoon's main speaker and moderate our conversation. I would like to thank both our trustees for taking time out from your very, very busy schedule to open and lead this webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ernie Garilao and Ms. Emily Abrera.
Thank you. Good morning to all our friends in India. Good afternoon to my fellow Filipinos and to all our guests in Southeast Asia. The COVID-19 pandemic has infected 43 million people around the world, with 1.1 million deaths and counting. The World Bank estimates an additional 88 to 111 million will be pushed back to poverty because of the pandemic, in addition to the 685 million living in extreme poverty as of 2017. In our country, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies estimates that 1.5 million Filipinos will slide back to poverty. And in 2018, poverty incidence has dropped to 16.7% from 23.3% in 2015. Now with the pandemic comes hunger and malnutrition. The Philippine Social Weather Station reports that 30.7% of Filipinos reported hunger in its September survey, and of this, 8.7% or 2.2 million farmers experienced severe hunger. This figure rises for households headed by people with only elementary schooling. The situation of our Filipino youth is deplorable. Oxfam Philippines estimates that 1.5 million Filipino children will slide back to poverty on top of the 31% of Filipino children living in poverty in 2015. We are therefore living in the worst of times, and the pandemic has changed the way we do things and created a major setback in our endeavors at reducing poverty. Civil society is not spared. The COVID-19 crisis has heavily disrupted the entire ecosystem of civic and humanitarian work. Delivery of essential services has become difficult due to lockdown and social distancing. Many NGOs moved their activities online and became actors in emerging solidarity networks, working with the communities on the ground. We are also seeing new civic spaces emerge in the neighborhoods, in the villages, all trying to engage their communities for the common good. The challenge that civil society faces at this time of social distancing is how to persevere in connecting and engaging two elements that NGOs adhere to as bedrocks of community work. How do we effectively connect people with similar interests and organize them to be better access services? How do we enhance participation among those who need? We are living in the worst of times, and what is our response? The Ramon Magsaysay Transformative Leadership Institute promotes the sharing of solutions developed by Ramon Magsaysay Awardees, experiences highly relevant to COVID-19 impacts. And one of the key activities of the Institute is leadership dialogues and the exchange of experiences on the ground that could lead to partnerships among solution seekers of Asia. Today, the RMTI Institute presents the work of ANSHU Gupta, 2015 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee from India, and founder of GUNJ. GUNJ has worked with the marginalized in India for more than 2 decades. In his work, ANSHU Gupta has reflected how poverty is in fact a continuing disaster. Solutions to this problem should consider unfailingly the dignity of people. The approaches are transformational, changing relationships of donor-beneficiary into everyone is a stakeholder, and seeing the poor from being a beneficiary into decision makers for their communities. Today, likewise, of interest will be the reactors to ANSHU's presentation, who will bring their different perspectives of working with their marginalized in our country. We will also see intergenerational perspective, as we have among the reactors, Dinky Soliman, an NGO leader before she served as Secretary of the Departments of Social Welfare under 2 administrations. And we have youth leaders already doing very inspiring work. And I believe we will get to know all our reactors in greater detail later. Thank you all for joining us. The COVID-19 pandemic exposes the inequities of the health and economic systems, as well as the inadequacies of the state to provide social protection for its vulnerable population at times of prolonged emergencies like this pandemic. It also means that the pre-COVID systems will have to be transformed into inclusive, equitable, and resilient systems. Likewise, it also calls for more transformative leaders in the different sectors to lead systems transformation. In crafting a response to this pandemic, it is also incumbent on us to engage government and the mainstream institutions towards these transformation processes. Stronger cooperation between public authorities and civil society is needed to support social cohesion. The new norm calls for the whole of society approach, and that leaders from different sectors work together in developing systems to be inclusive, equitable, and resilient. In the worst of times, our collective response has to show the best that each one of us can give, undaunted by the enormity of our challenge. Thank you, and good afternoon to all.
Thank you so much, Ernie Garilao. And now for some good news. The dictionary defines innovation as the creation, the development, and the implementation of a new product, process, or service with the aim of improving efficiency or effectiveness or competitive advantage. The true spirit of innovation, of course, goes beyond the ideation stage, all the way to when ideas are actually executed and their effectiveness tested. And this is where many so-called innovators fall short. It takes time and tremendous patience to refine an idea, whether it's an original one or an adaptation of one, to try it out until one can finally claim that it is a workable solution to a felt need. The process can be a costly one, which is why we often think of entrepreneurs as innovators, when in truth, many entrepreneurs take on the business risk of trying out an innovation in the market. Rarely is the entrepreneur and the innovator one and the same person. Well, here's a story for you. In 1999, ANSHU Gupta and his wife, Meenakshi, contributed 67 items of personal clothing for the use of the homeless during winter. This experience, born of a desire to help, also drew their attention to the vast quantities of underutilized cloth and other materials that lay unused in India's urban households, while many rural poor people die because they do not have enough clothing to keep them warm against the cold. That was a light bulb moment. Gupta founded Gunj, a volunteer organization in India built on the powerful, life-changing lessons he had learned. That much more than random disaster relief needed to be done, that better ways of mobilizing public concern and assistance had to be organized. And most importantly, that giving must have at its core the recipient's rights and dignity, rather than the giver's goodness and satisfaction. Cut to 20 years later, through its staff, its thousands of volunteers, and numerous partner organizations, Gunj redistributes contributed items, processes and repurposes cloth and materials to fit the identified needs of recipient groups. Gunj is now a movement working in 21 of India's 29 states, and is much more than a channel for clothing and other recycled articles. The Gunj strategy involves the poor in identifying their needs, employs them in recycling and fabrication, and inspires poor communities to undertake projects like building bridges and repairing schools in exchange for clothes and other essential articles. Gupta proves that innovation is bigger than a product or a platform. Through the collective work of Gunj and the communities they collaborate with, Gupta underscores a valuable insight that leaders and innovators do not always innovate the product. Sometimes the breakthrough is innovating the factory. In 2015, ANSHU Gupta Founder of Goonj, was elected to receive the Ramon Magsaysay Award for his creative vision in transforming the culture of giving in India. His enterprising leadership in treating cloth as a sustainable development resource for the poor, and in reminding the world that true giving always respects and preserves human dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 2015 Ramon Magsaysay Awardee ANSHU GUPTA.
Good morning and good afternoon. Jai Hind, Namaskar. So beautiful to be here, in this gathering and getting a chance to talk to fellow citizens, fellow leaders, fellow doers, what we are trying to do. And I think what I'll do is that I'll just maybe, show some slides because uh, otherwise, if we think that old cloths or old material has the power to make a bamboo bridge or make hundreds of kilometers of roads, it's a little bit tough to imagine. But then these pictures really tell us that it is certainly possible, and the giving can certainly be dignified in a much bigger way. So what I'll do is that I'll just run through this, and I'll also talk about the idea, and then in the day, because we have enough time, for the conversations and all. Um, this all started way back, you can say, in 1998. Uh, I was just 91. I came to Delhi to do my mass communication, and then I started working with a Scots later on in my corporate life. And when I moved from Dehradun, which is a hill town, comparatively hill town, and my imagination of Delhi was not it's just not that cold and all, and it used to be a big city for people like us who come from beautiful small towns, and I'm sure a lot of people in Philippines will also understand what I'm trying to say. In Dehradun, in those days, even red lights never used to be there. Flyovers was never an imagination for any one of us. And then suddenly you come to this big city, the capital city, and you find that a large number of kids are actually begging on the roads, and especially when you stop your two-wheeler, some kids come to you and ask for something. And as a young guy, you are really struggling with, especially in the winters, that how come people are not wearing enough clothes, and why people are not covered, why are they shivering, why can't we give? Whole lot of all those questions which had no answer, to be honest, at that particular time. So that has started troubling, all this. And then when I started literally, writing or that the journalism thing, this is when I met with this particular family. I'm coming straight away to the story right now and talk about the larger philosophy and all later on, just to start the conversation. So this is 1991, and I'm roaming around on the roads of Old Delhi with my small camera on a scooter on a two-wheeler, and suddenly I see this rickshaw. In Hindi, it is written "Police Seva Lavaris Lash ke liye," which means a person who is picking up unclaimed dead bodies for the local police. And as a budding journalist, it was a subject, it was a story, and I followed the person who was running this rickshaw, called Habib Bhai, and his blind wife, Amna Begum. And so suddenly I see that they stop at a place where there is a dead body lying. They get down, they pick up that dead body, and they literally work like a robot, fine, as if it's like a routine for them. I kept following them, and then I followed them for about a week. Morning 6 o'clock till 9, 10 in the night, every day used to be there with these guys to understand. I had never seen poverty or migration or slums or roadside life. All that was absolute first exposure to me, and I think they were the teachers that time. So I used to have my morning bed tea with them only in those days. And then I realized that every single big city in the world has a large number of migrant people. And if you see the displacement during the moment, various countries announced lockdowns, or when the job started, going out, the displacement we saw, and we also understood that a large number of people are displaced. Large number of people have come from the villages or the smaller towns as a part of the forced migration. They never came by choice. they tried to settle down, but they never got that satisfaction or dignity. And that is the reason that the moment the pandemic happened, people started going back to their respective spaces, because at least if you don't get enough food, at least you get dignity out there. That's the most important part. We also realize that large number of people in the cities actually die, and these deaths are actually not counted because we don't even identify those people. And the local system really just take care of their cremation and all that. So Habib Bhai's full-time job was to pick up unclaimed dead body. And in those days, he was paid 20 rupees and 2 meters of white cloth, which is not even quarter of a dollar these days. And his family literally used to survive on that money. So while talking to the family and writing for a publication that time, two statements came up. Obviously, they spoke in Hindi and I'll translate it. Habib Bhai said that in winters my work goes up, and many times I have so much of work that I cannot handle it. And then I realized that every 24 hours in the range of 4 to 5 kilometers, he was actually picking up 10 to 12 dead bodies. And in the summers, the average used to be 4 to 5. Like a normal, common human being, I kept thinking that this is, the deaths are happening more because of winters. But then later on, I realized that it is not the winters actually, because if the cold kills people, even I would have died. I survive on my two-wheeler at a speed of 50, 60 kilometers per hour. Even in the night at 10, 11 o'clock in the night, someone static dies on the road. It is actually not the cold, but the cloth. The only thing which I had extra was layers of clothing. So it's a highly preventable death or suffering. And to be honest, till that time and even today, now at least we know that it has never been a subject, but that time we didn't know that worldwide, when you talk about three basic needs of humankind, you say food, cloth, and shelter. But even today, if you talk about development issues across the globe by all the agencies, UN, MDGs, SDGs, everything, you literally have 100, 150 issues from domestic violence to global warming. And every year or every 2 years, the new issues are added, like climate change to now COVID or displacement in a much bigger way. But clothing has never been considered a subject. So one of the basic needs is not even a subject. It's a disaster relief material. It's a charitable subject object. And in that conversation, they had a little daughter, that's our daughter Urvi now, who's a grown-up college girl, but almost of the same age, called Bano, who gave the most shocking statement in English. If I translate, she said that when I feel cold, I hug the dead body and sleep. She further said, it does not trouble me, it does not turn around. Of course, it was shocking, and of course, I didn't believe, despite the fact that I was, spending a lot of time with the family, because I was still coming back with my urban, I think learnings and knowledge and college education, which told me that dead bodies are cold, because I never understood the compulsion part of it. And I think that was the genesis of something where we started understanding that actually poverty is an ongoing disaster, because these people were not affected by earthquake or floods to stand with them. They're actually just going through that acute poverty. And similarly, large number of people who were dying on the road or across the globe who die on the roads, even the most established, most popular cities across the globe are also, they also have a sizable chunk of homeless people, and their issues are absolutely ignored. I'm not even right now talking about the dignity part. I'm just talking about the survival part. So this incident kept troubling, and then many other incidents, not as gruesome, but yes, some more incident. And that's where after say about 6-7 years, this journey started. As you all are told, with 6-7 units of personal clothing, we were married for 3 years, and we realized whatever is not needed, and can we start something with that? And that's how all this has started. Now, let me just come on the operation part of it, which is the most important part, and that is what shows that it is a highly replicable model in any of the economy of the world. So we said that we need to change the definition of donation, because the moment we say we are donating something, we put ourselves on a little bit higher platform, and look at people from the top. We said that the moment we are giving our second-hand material, which we have already used, we should not use the word donation, because something which we have already used, we are actually discarding it. We are giving it because we don't need it, right? And that is rather, in that case, we need to be more thankful to the people who are using our second-hand stuff, because they value our emotions, they value our hard-earned money, and that gives them happiness. So we said that uh, we should just say we are giving it, because that's what we are giving, that's what we are doing. And more than these scenarios, which are, I will show you some pictures of India, because that's my work area, that's our work area. But the fact also remains that each one of us who is looking at this presentation from any part of the world can relate to almost every single picture like this, because this is a world phenomena. It's not just an Indian story. So we said that instead of talking about, say, or giving away like discard and all, can we talk about dignity of people? Because one of the biggest asset which people, and especially the financially weaker section, has is something called dignity. And how we preserve that dignity, I'll show you in the next couple of minutes. We said there is no donor or no beneficiary, everyone is a stakeholder. And that's extremely important for us. And the model which we came up is every single person is actually contributing. Someone is contributing money, someone is contributing material, someone is contributing labor, someone is contributing wisdom. So, because we all can do this exercise, and so if we start talking about, say, donor, say if we say speak or a paragraph, if we just narrate, and we have to use donor beneficiary word at least 4 or 5 times while speaking that paragraph, you will find that every time we talk about donor, we talk like this. Every time we talk about beneficiary, we talk like this. So that is the conditioning. We said that actually everyone is a stakeholder, and the moment we have that stakeholder mindset, you actually get additional manpower, additional people, additional skill in the process. We said giving is not enough. Mindful giving is extremely important, because, and today in the virtual tour of our center, you will see, because one of the biggest gap which we identified was that we give what we have, we don't give what people need. And that's a huge problem, because even in the urban and rural part of the world, there is a problem. And then you have size, shape, culture, geography, religion, whole lot of other factors. I mean, that's what in the last 2 decades we have just tried to understand, learn, and plug as much as possible. And as I'm saying that poverty is an ongoing disaster, half the world does not need an earthquake or a flood. And I think the pandemic has literally proved that large number of people who are just as part of the data, where we talk about billions or millions, are actually going through a very tough phase in the world with the constant poverty. Now, what we did in this model, and which I say is the replicable model. So, in a typical way, this material comes, say, about 6,000 tons, which is about 6 million kgs of material, from large part of the cities and the retail chains, and the dead inventory with the corporates or corporations and all that come to us. Then it goes through a very rigorous process of matching the need of people, which I am not explaining right now, because that is what you will see in that virtual tour. The third part is a magic part, where we just bring this material in a very decent family kit kind of stuff to the villages of India. And we have these conversations with them. There's nothing like top down, and village people decide that what is that work which is extremely important for them. So a village will say that we need a water body to work on. Someone says we need to dig a well. Someone says we need a bamboo bridge because our kids are not able to cross the river. Someone says that we really need a road to be made. And that's where the village community gets involved, with their own wisdom, with their own whatever equipments they have, with their own labor, and they start just working on the issues which are most important to us, most important to them. It is not something like where people like us go and say that every village will have a road or every village will have a well. The village has the power to decide, and they will decide on the basis of immediate needs. So road might be important for them, but as of now, water body is most urgent. So they will choose to work on that. And then after a few days of work, they will receive this material with a lot of dignity. Just to give you some pictures. So this is how, they become the decision maker, they become the doer. This bamboo bridge is 100% created by them. Just some pictures of different kind of water related solutions, because one of the biggest problem with the development work is that in big cities we sit and we say that every village will have a pond or a road or a check dam, without understanding that every geography, every area has absolutely different kind of need. Somewhere you do not even have to dig a well or pond, because there is an existing pond which needs to be maintained. Somewhere you just have to create a small check dam. So all this is done, and as you see, we are not dependent on any outside support in terms of equipments and all, or the technology, because as I often say that technology is a beautiful thing and we all are now benefiting by that. But by creating roti.com or by creating bread.com, you can't provide roti or bread. You need that physical work by the people, and they have enough wisdom to really do this. Such beautiful wells are also created, again 100% with local wisdom, local resources. First picture is basically the well which was created by the government and which was completely dried. So you don't have to dig a well. It is just that people go through this dignity for work, cloth for work, we used to call it, and then revive that well. Some more efforts, and that is what I'm saying, that these are the areas, or these are the initiatives which are applicable for across the, for anywhere in the world, and especially the disaster prone areas, where, because like in India also, a large part of India goes through disasters every year, and floods have unfortunately are treated like a ritual only now. People don't even pay attention to that. Even the governments don't pay that kind of attention to them. So that is where citizens really need to come up and take care of their own work, because whether the big people need a road or not, but the people who are staying in that village do need a road, and immediately after the disaster. Look at what beautiful things they create. And most important part is that maintenance cost is very low, because when you make it, you maintain it. There is a sense of ownership. It is a decision made by people. Lot of work on agriculture. So if you see the second picture on the top, it is before, and the third picture is after. As I said, that it is not a top down approach. So village is taking decision. So for that particular village, reviving this canal was most important, or creating rural schools. So all these people have created this structure, which is a strong sturdy bamboo wall for a village. And again, the moment you make a school, you also play a part in the education, and you're answerable, and you will make the authorities answerable for the education of your kid. So it is not just creating a bamboo wall, but basically becoming a part of that system, totally. Look at what they have created. It's all decorated by them, and this is first such structure in the name of a school in that entire area of a tribal community there. Just couple of more issues, just to touch upon that, how the second-hand goods can really create wonders. So when we were working with cloths, one of the issue which we saw, which we didn't know, is that a large number of women across the globe, not only in India, uh, do not have enough to wear. Right? I mean, there is shortage of cloth. So very simple question came up, that if you do not have to say enough to wear, from where and how you bring a piece of cloth during your menstruation, which is a very taboo subject, and we hardly talk about it, right? For the middle class and the upper class, you have products available, but for the families or millions of people who do not have even enough to survive, to eat, how do you bring that piece of cloth, or a sanitary towel? Uh, so I was roaming around in a place which is known for the traditional bangle industry, and a lady shares a story that how one of her sister used a piece of blouse, which is a traditional Indian wear, which had a hook, a rusted hook, and how she died of tetanus. during menses. Uh, we were already, thinking about the subject, trying to do something, but that was literally something different because we before that we didn't we couldn't understand that it is such a gruesome stuff. And then we realized that millions and millions of women across the globe, not only in India, are actually forced to use sand, ash, jute bags, rugs, rags, newspaper, grass, dirty clothes, anything and everything, even in a non-disaster scenario. So that lack of clothing during menses actually becomes a disaster. Even the menses become a disaster every month for them. So we said that let's start using the second-hand cloth, the cotton cloth, semi-cotton cloth, and turn it into a sanitary pad. We call it my pad, and the all the hosiery material which comes with that, or any other cotton material that can even become an undergarment. So it becomes a complete package. And we also said that it's actually not a women issue; it's a human issue, because a large number of women actually are losing their uterus because of the infections which happen during menses. Now, disaster, which I think, India and Philippines have one thing very common is also these frequent cyclones and flooding. Uh, we said that there are disasters which are visible, which are the floods and or the cyclone. We need to dignify the act of giving there. Disaster comes with a lot of destruction, and that is where people can get into their own work and receive the material with a lot of dignity. So this is how, just to showcase some of the pictures, we made sure that there is a dignified kit which is not less than 20-25 kg. And most important part is that how do you localize the material which is going in it, instead of just on the basis of what you're collecting, or what the cities are giving. But we really need to understand that in which region, which province, which state, what is that people need. If there is a place where people need, eat flour, or the other place where people actually eat rice. So the giving has to be absolutely localized, and it has to be as per need, not on the basis of what we have. Just to give you some example how disaster we take as an opportunity to really get deeper into the work. So this is like in Kerala, many of you must have traveled, and these are the backwater canals which are completely choked closed, because this is not the place where tourist is going. But that is putting a lot of burden on the people, on the residents here, and they are actually taking much longer routes to do their day-to-day activity. So post the, in the floods in Kerala recently, 2 years back, this is where communities got involved before receiving a relief kit, and they cleaned it up and then they received the relief kit. So the fun of it, or the important part of it, is that you give a trouser to someone and say it belongs to me. The person will say yes, it is yours. But then the person really does this work. You go and say this trouser belongs to me. The person will say that it might be yours, but I want it. So that narrative, that language is changing in this entire game. And also the neglected disasters. I think winters have been absolutely neglected disasters. More people in our countries die due to lack of clothing in winters than earthquake or floods. Fire is an absolutely neglected disaster. In winters and summers, both times, due to various reasons, the fire happens, and hundreds and thousands of shanties are gutted. That's where we get into reconstruction, and also so that's why I don't use the word relief often, because it's actually not relief. Even our relief kit goes as a part of rehabilitation, because when you make a road for yourself, when you clean a pond for yourself, when you make a school building for yourself, post a disaster, it does not just remain a relief kit, it actually becomes a rehabilitation kit that way. Now, last point, which is extremely important for all of us, because this is what we have been facing. In the last 6 months, this is how the migration happened. The reverse migration, you must have seen pictures, you have experienced it in Philippines also. Millions of people walked long distances, hundreds of kilometers, to reach back their villages. And I think we as a society somewhere, I would say that we failed also, because we couldn't build that trust in this society. Somewhere it has been a deficit of trust, because one of the biggest problem with many of us is that we want to live and we want other people to survive, but that's not the way the society should be. every single person at least has equal right, to live a dignified life. So this is how millions of people walked. We got into action. I'll not go into these, so-called big datas, but so far we have done almost about 4 million kgs of ration itself, and also almost a million sanitary pads, other hygiene products, and all, which are also a very big income generation activity, for the women who are affected in this. And then, one other thing which is important, which we all can do in a big scale, is that it is fine to give a 3,000 rupees worth of relief kit to someone, but in 3,000 rupees, you can also start a business of cobbler. You can also, in 3,000 rupees, start a roadside barber shop. In 5,000, 6,000 rupees, instead of just giving a relief kit, a woman can come back and do the stitching job. And a lot of plantation can happen, a lot of kitchen gardens can be developed. So that's what we are focusing, post-COVID on a very large scale. But what I'm trying to tell you here is that it is not that farming is not not a profession which is an unskilled profession. It is a skilled profession. When we treat our rural population, we should not just treat them as the beneficiaries. We should also treat them as our local normal population. Where if I say in India 70% people stay in the villages, we also need to understand that 70% consumers stay in the villages. So why should village only produce for the cities? Why can't village produce for themselves? Why can't every two village or two or one village actually have a cobbler shop? Why should they come to the city to get their shoe repaired? And if you have 300 families, you have 100 bicycles, you have 200 tires to be repaired. Why can't a tire puncture or a repair shop become a huge employment for hundreds of villages in that area? So I'm just saying that absolutely local lens we have to really wear to solve these problems instead of our fancy solution from the cities. We are also forming this alliance, and very soon we will bring it to Philippines, for our fellow doers. And this is called, as of now, it is called Goonj Alliance for Rapid Response and Disaster. This is the India-based thing, and the whole idea is that multiple stakeholders, or say one might be a transport company, the other might be just a biscuit making company, fine. Then there are grassroots institutions who can scale up at the time of disaster, and some knowledge partners. So we all pull in, we create an alliance, and we do not wait for an appeal to happen or media to say that a disaster has happened, but we all decide and we just literally push that button. Transport companies say that okay, fine, 100,000 rupees or dollar worth of transportation I'll give free. Someone says 500,000 biscuit packets are there. So that's how we don't delay when a disaster happens, to start with. And also as an alliance we work on the mitigation of it. So if you just create much better safety walls than the mud walls, you can certainly stop flooding. If you work a lot on mangroves plantation, which we are doing in West Bengal areas and all, you can certainly reduce the impact on flooding and cyclone in those areas. So that's what we are just trying to do with this effort. This is again a disaster wastage turn into a large number of livelihood options. You can imagine this is how it is lying, and this is how it is right now. That's how people, and it becomes a huge income generation activity by creating local need-based material. We can't cover everything in 15 minutes, but some of these things you will see in that visit also. Uh, we also came up with something called Green by Goonj, which is a trademark, and that's where these fancy products are coming. So that's our income generation activity also for the institution. This is what the data is all about, almost about 5,500 tons, and this is the financial 18-19, which is growing. Just last thing to say some of the things. So if we see this first picture, all these people in our diaries or our records will be called beneficiaries. We will also call them unskilled, uneducated, unemployed. With every good word, we add un before that, un, and take away the dignity of people. But my question is that if people can dig or people can make such beautiful well, how can we really call them uh, unskilled? Not at all. So what we are trying to do, we are just trying to change this definition. Now these people are the doers, these people are the contributors. So in nutshell, what 2 3 things are happening. One is the decision making is going in the hands of the last person who is deciding what is needed and how to operate about it. Second, it is also the revival of the traditional barter economy with two new currencies. On one side, it is the village wisdom and hard work, and on the other side it is the city's underutilized or discarded material, and the money is only for the logistics of it. So the other part is that we have also been able to now find new currencies for development, whether it is the grassroots wisdom or the old material is a new currency. It is also the revival of the traditional strength of many countries. In India, it used to be called Shramdan, which is community work. And that is a revival of community work or Shramdan on a very, very large scale. If I just go on the figures, it is almost about 4 million USD which we spend in money. If we do a very basic calculation on money on material per kg basis, it is almost 20 million. And if I talk about local wisdom, labor resource, another 3 million. So you can say that by just spending $4 million, we can say that we are a multi-million company or organization, because our working capital has become 27 million USD minimum. Okay, I mean, it's a very conservative cost, very, very conservative cost. Sad picture. As a policy, we don't use it anywhere in Gunj. Any of the material, nowhere you will find this picture. But because I want to leave it with a lot of hopes, and I also want to prove that if we wear the lenses of people for whom we are working, how even the smallest possible thing really change, and also how we change our lenses, which is the most important part. So this is one picture, and this is other picture. And if I just talk about this picture, he is asking for something, he is very poor, he is begging. Some people even say he does not have parents. The only thing the guy does not have is a t-shirt. But this is what we have done in public, a lot of exercises, and all kind of negative things really come for this kid. And a piece of cloth changes that. So my only issue is that it is not the piece of cloth which is changing. Because the other problem of that kid, whether the kid is poor or he comes from the poor family and all that, it still remains same. It is our perception which is unfortunately related to a piece of cloth, because we decide on the basis of cloth whether that person is really skilled, unskilled, poor, rich, or whatever. See this, and I often ask people that how many of us will actually call him for any village development meeting, and even if we call him, how many of us will ask him to really sit with us, and how many of us will listen to him? And the same person now, if we just do a gesture, this person, the first person, we will call him, the second person will go next to him. We will have more respect for the second person. Second person has much better chance to sit in the meeting and speak also. Again, it is not about cloth. It is about our perception and our distorted lenses, which certainly need to change. And certainly the entire 15 minutes or maybe more I spent in just saying that every single person on this earth is born, with what I have, with what other person has. I mean, if these two people are born exactly they had no control over their birth that way. I am very privileged that I was not born in one of the most tribal or underdeveloped belt, and I could get a chance to study and all that. But it's extremely important that we stop, working for the Facebook and Twitter to click good pictures, but we really change our lenses, and we are the lenses of people for whom we are trying to work, and stop using the word donor and beneficiary and start treating everyone as a stakeholder. Because what picture you saw of the bridge and the pond, those people actually contributed much more than the people who have contributed their old clothes. So they are actually the bigger doer in our model. Thank you very much. I'll just stop here.
If this were live, you would hear the applause, of course. So thank you so much, Anshu, for that honest and moving and very inspirational presentation. It challenges us to look at development problems through a totally different lens, and as you recommend, a local lens, doesn't it? So it's time now to introduce the first batch of Anshu's co-discussants. Three individuals who are pillars of the Philippines development sector. Our first discussant is Corazon Juliano Soliman, known to most of us as Dinky Soliman. She has worked extensively on community development, peace and conflict resolution, gender and human rights, and innovative funding approaches. She served as the Secretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development in 2 previous administrations. And while in government, she pushed for policies and practices that focused on empowerment and community voice, adopting more holistic approaches towards poverty reduction, disaster response, livelihoods, and social protection. Dinky is currently involved with Insight.gov, a policy research and advocacy center, providing support to democratic movements and spearheading democratic reform coalitions and initiatives. At Insight.gov, she's the lead convener for its social protection and community-driven development programs. Please welcome Dinky Soliman. The next discussant is the president of the Negrense Volunteers for Change, Mili Kilaiko. NVC is an NGO that was established in 2010 in Bacolod City, here in the Philippines, to harness the power of private citizens to create positive and lasting change in their communities, as well as in towns and cities, and hopefully throughout the country. NVC believes that by pooling the energies, the resources, the talents, and the skills of individuals, we can bring about a better future for Filipinos. One of NVC's core projects is the production of something called Mingo Meals, an instant, nutritious, complementary food for infants and toddlers. There are 2 versions. Sourcing from local farmers, Mingo Meals are made from rice and mung beans, and moringa. It contains vitamins and minerals for brain and physical development, much needed among the poor. More than 12 million Mingo meals have been served to date in 46 provinces across the country. Please welcome Mili Kilaiko. Both of these ladies are my good friends. And here's the third. Our third discussant is co-founder, president, and CEO of the Yellow Boat of Hope Foundation, Dr. Anton Lim. We call him Doc Anton. He and 2 friends co-founded the Yellow Boat of Hope Foundation, an NGO which started as a nationwide effort to help children who had to swim to shore to get to school from their houses on stilts in a mangrove village in Zamboanga City. A staunch believer in the power of education, community cohesion, and sustainability, Dr. Lim and his team offer communities the necessary tools to help equip their children and fulfill their children's educational needs. Its programs today have expanded from just boat building to building other support structures. The Yellow Boat of Hope Foundation has started building classrooms and schools, dormitories, bridges, among others, to ensure that every child gets to school safe and sound and dry. Welcome, Doc Anton. And finally, joining our panel is a veritable force in Gunj and Anshu's #1 supporter, his lovely wife, Meenakshi Gupta. Meenakshi co-founded Gunj with her husband, Anshu. She's a commerce graduate with an advanced degree in advertising and PR from the Indian Institute of Mass Communications. Maybe they met there. Meenakshi largely remained behind the scenes in the initial years of Gunj. But in 2005, she joined the work full-time, ending her 15-year corporate career and an 8-year stint as news publicity head at BBC South Asia. Whether it's a front office job or backbone work, Meenakshi is focused. She serves all with foundational Gunj values. She is especially passionate about giving voice to unheard communities, especially women, on neglected personal issues and needs, as Anshu described earlier, menstrual hygiene in far-flung Indian villages. Please welcome Ms. Meenakshi Gupta. So first, let's listen to the discussants' reactions to Anshu's presentation, and then we will take questions. We encourage everyone to use the Q&A chat box for your questions. We will try to respond to all, relevant questions as possible on the air. We'll start with Dinky.
Thank you, Emily. And I'm trying to use my new skill of opening up my screen.
Yay!
Yes, upskilling these times. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share our thoughts. First of all, I would like to say, Anshu, I resonate so much with everything that you have said, especially about the fact that we are all stakeholders and that the donor beneficiary mindset should really be changed. I want to just say that, everything that you've said is something that I have tried to live up to and live with in the work that I do. What I'm going to share is similar to what you have done, and I think in a minuscule way, because this came together in our work as responding to the pandemic now. And this is actually a work of collaborative effort of people who have been working together for a long time. And I would like to show that, of course, we all know that the pandemic, as you have already shown, both in India and all parts of the world, inequity was clearly shown in the way that people were on the levels of coping with the pandemic. Hunger, loss of livelihood, mental stress, violence are more felt by the majority of the population. And therefore, it really, I think, created a need for many of those of us who have been working in development work to start doing something. But the tendency then was just to do what we could in our little space. And we decided, the Bridging Leadership conveners, some of whom are here, especially led by Ernie, that we should facilitate a collaborative action by mapping out several initiatives and coordinate, because we think that to be able to really respond to the breadth and depth of the problem, especially when the lockdown was caused by the government, there was really a major problem of food insecurity and a problem of what to do immediately with fear about the health. So what we were able to do is work together in partnership with community-based organizations, and that's where, Anshu, I really resonate, that the people in the different urban poor communities and rural poor communities, they have a stake and they know what to do. And so with them, we identified, generated the list of the most vulnerable partners, vulnerable families in these communities, and develop a distribution system in partnership with those who are actually in the community. And the resources that this group of foundations, private sector, CSOs, NGOs, who are service delivery groups, we decided that what we're going to do is work with these community-based organizations who identified the most vulnerable among them, developed the distribution system, and agreed to coordinate and set a minimum standard of food packs. And in the way that we were implementing it, we said that we will operate on the principle of subsidiarity. Who does what given the situation? Who does what best? That means, because there were several of us who were, as you can see here on the next slide, are different foundations who have been working in the Philippines for a long time, civil society organizations also working with business, and schools, but most importantly, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations who have been working in the past individually, but now I think the call was for us to collaborate. The call was for us to coordinate so that we can respond in a more effective and efficient way. And therefore, we have been able to reach 2.9 million family beneficiaries and raise 2.2 billion pesos in a matter of 3 months. And we continue to provide, at this point, as a collaboration, different food packs and cooked food for still the continuing issue of hunger, because as we all know, here in the Philippines, livelihoods have not been revived, and there's still a significant number of communities who have not found their way back to work. And as Ernie already had pointed out earlier, SWS has seen an increase of hunger. And therefore, that continues to be one of the major work that we do, which is to support cooked food or food packs, and Philippine Business for Social Progress, the League of Corporate Foundations, and the Association of Foundations and groups like Jollibee Group and ABS-CBN continue to provide these packages. But we cannot do that, and we cannot actually reach that number if we were not in partnership with community-based organizations. And again, to ANSHU's point, that everyone has a contribution. No one is so poor that they cannot contribute, and no one is so rich that they do not need anything. And that's why this collaboration is based on that respect. And so we work very, very closely with the Samahang Nagkakaisa ng Pantawid Pamilya, Kasagana Ka, and members of the Alliance of People's Organization, who, after identifying who were the vulnerable groups and who were the families who were in most needs in their community, were the ones who actually distributed the goods by foot because of the physical distancing protocol, the severe lockdown, which had all checkpoints in different parts of the metropolis and in the rural areas. They were the ones who were giving it out by foot, carrying it house to house to make sure that the vulnerables, in fact, get it. But as we all know, that is not sustainable. And this is why this is, again, resonating with what you've said. They were the ones, the people, the community-based organization partners were saying, we need to get back to our livelihood. We need to be able to earn again, because we cannot be always being given, delivering food, food packs and cooked food. We want to work. And that's when we started as a collaboration, discussing with the people, what could we do given the situation of still semi-lockdowns for some. Most factories have closed where they work. The informal sector is not as revived as it should be. And that's when they said, we can do several things that we already know what to do. We just need some support in terms of resources and linkages. So we started with 3 things on the ground and a 4th thing, which I will talk in a while. And that's basically working with reviving the karinderya. In India, I think it's like the tiffin system. It's where the cooked food is done by, before the pandemic, it's done by families as a business, and people actually buy. We did a survey before we started this with the communities, and Kasagana Ka, which is an organization of women who are organized as a co-op, and the Samahang Nagkakaisa ng Pantawid Pamilya, or SNPP, these are parent leaders of a conditional cash transfer program. They used to have this small cooked food eateries, and that the people actually buy after they come from work from them. However, with the pandemic, it all got closed. And because of that, they've lost livelihood, and they saw that this is one thing they know how to do. And that's why we have invested through the support of people with resources so that they can revive the karinderya. But the interesting feature is that the karinderya is revived so that they can get back to their business, the owners, but there is a portion, or a 90%, if not 100%, subsidized food for the vulnerable that they have identified, vulnerable families. So they give it for subsidized rates, And that means the vulnerable families that they have identified who continue to suffer their inability to provide food for their families are given this food for free. So you have actually the business owners or the karinderya owners reviving it slowly, their business, but at the same time supporting those who still need food supply, but this time it's cooked food from the community. The other effort was that there were community of women who said that they've lost their jobs because of the closure of sewing factories, the garment factories. And so the groups that are working in this, we've identified at least 7 communities with women in different parts of National Capital Region, starting sewing masks, and Philippine Business for Social Progress and other foundations started to provide the funds to do the mask and buy the materials. And in turn, these are given for free to urban poor communities because it is, if you don't have a mask, you can get arrested in the Philippines now. So that's the experience that they've been having. And the third effort of reviving the economy bottom up is supporting the mobile talipapats. So these are vegetable, fruit sellers who move around in tricycles, as we call them, or rickshaws. And the second is reviving the small convenience stores or sari-sari stores. This is done by PDRF, and the other one is done by the other foundations with LCF and PBSP. And finally, Kasagana Ka, which is another partner of the collaboration, started to explore digital marketing, and that's the Escaparate. So they're working with the digital group. They put it out in the social media arena in terms of the different items that the mothers of Kasagana Ka have been producing, from food to decorative items to baskets, and people can order from the digital marketing. I think what is important to say at this point is all of these efforts, and these are pictures of what has been done by the mothers, again resonating with you, Anshu, that the people know what to do, and we just need to make ourselves be effective partners to what needs to be done to move them up out of the suffering that they're going through, especially because of the pandemic. And I know that it is a big challenge at this time. Sometimes we despair because the challenge is not just the fear of the pandemic, but I think in terms of our own conditions here in the Philippines, the very militaristic approach in addressing a health issue has sowed fear in the hearts of many people, especially in the urban poor communities. And so sometimes we despair. What do we do? This is such a big problem. But I take inspiration from the people themselves who are so resilient, who are able to think about the other instead of just thinking of themselves. And I draw inspiration also from the recent awardee of the David Rockefeller Bridging Leadership Award, Cristina Figueras and Ed Nagpur, who said that they do what they do because of their stubborn optimism, that they will not allow the gravity of despair and depression to overcome them, and to really defy that and say that we can do this together, we can really work, get this situation become a different reality for a majority of people, where true hope, justice, truth, and love can actually reign. And Anshu, you've done that very clearly in India, and I really like to say that I've been inspired by the story that you have just said to us now. Thank you very much.
Perhaps we can go to the next one. Millie?
I will respond to Anshu's work in my personal, very personal level, and on the level of the small organization I represent. There was one profound message from Anshu that clearly stands in my head. It is what Anshu says about much more than random disaster relief needs to be done. Extreme poverty is actually a continuing human disaster. Those are just 2 sentences that Anshu said, but they revolutionized the way I think, and perhaps the way we will work in our organization in the coming years. You see, in NVC Foundation, our norm is to compartmentalize what we do. Regular programs for the poverty-stricken on one end, and emergency relief on the other. But ANSHU's powerful message may change all that. Because here's the way we work. Our entry point into a community is by way of Mingo Meals, which Emily mentioned earlier, which is an instant powdered complementary food which we manufacture in our processing plant, made of ingredients that we source fair trade from small farmers. Our usual process is to implement a 6-month daily feeding program for infants and toddlers. We see most of them graduate from severely underweight to normal within the period. Then we stay a bit longer to help the parents acquire better ways to earn so they can feed their families even after we have left. This means many times providing access to livelihood in many different forms, providing fishermen's helpers with boats, drivers with pedicabs and tricycles, farmers with tools and technologies. And while we are there, we get to know the communities better, and we find other needs which together we can help fulfill, like building classrooms, providing school supplies for children in school. That is one compartment. In the other compartment are the activities we undertake whenever there are sporadic disasters, be they floods or earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. When these happen, we run off and provide assistance by way of Mingo Meals, usually to evacuation centers of these disaster-ridden places. So our norm is to keep tabs of the different compartments, to differentiate what went to programs and what went to emergency relief. But now, ANSHU's wisdom shows me that there should be no dividing line between our day-to-day work with the communities and the sporadic natural disasters that spark during the year, including what ANSHU mentioned, the neglected disasters. Poverty, as ANSHU says, is one continuing human disaster, and the natural disasters which occur are but interruptions to this continuing disaster, hitting hardest the poverty-stricken who live in the painful cycle that weaves from generation to generation. Sadly, the community of givers always respond with greater outbursts of generosity when grave physical or extraordinary disasters occur. Think Typhoon Haiyan, think Taal eruption, think Marawi siege. But ANSHU's wisdom made me think, shouldn't we treat the situation of the impoverished all around us like a continuing grave physical disaster? Had we dealt with poverty with as much sense of urgency as we did when natural disasters occurred, wouldn't we perhaps have seen long-lasting change much earlier? And what comes to my mind is this: how will we treat the COVID crisis? Shall we again just let it come and let it pass after we have gone through the emergency phase? Shall we be like the many natural disasters of the past? Shall we just provide what ANSHU calls mere random relief? So I did a little examination of conscience in my own organization. Because nutrition is one of our core programs, we now attempt to step up beyond random relief from emergency feeding, which at the earliest onset of COVID was the provision of Mingo Meals, and later meal bags from families, which we stocked with vegetables and fruits we purchased from small farmers, dried fish from marginal fishermen, rice, and Mingo Meals. To step up beyond random relief from emergency feeding to food sustainability. So now, we are helping convert empty urban lots into edible gardens. We coordinate with landowners and train jobless families living close to the properties so they can cultivate gardens for their food consumption as well as for added income. Shortly, we will kick off container gardening for crowded urban spaces, primarily in the slum areas. But really, that is only a single solution. I am, however, coming out of today's program really more inspired and awakened, and I cannot wait to share the story of Gunj India with the communities we serve, because I know they will be as inspired as I am. Together, We will seek more sustainable solutions, discover new currencies. It may be cloth or it may be something else, but definitely, as Anshu has shown us, we will look to it with new lenses. Thank you, Anshu, for the inspiration.
Thank you, Millie. That was a great story. Thank you. Thank you. Very, very humble reflection on your part. Shall we go to Doc Anton? Hi, nice seeing you again.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be able to share in this forum. Thank you very much, Anshu. Truly, I was really inspired, like what Tita Mili said. It really gave us fresh lenses to look at things. But one thing that reinforces this statement, just like what Anshu did, we should never underestimate the power of one simple deed. For Anshu, it might just be giving out what they have in abundance at home, but to others, it meant a lot of things. Okay, the Yellow Boat story started with somebody relate to us the story of kids having to swim to go to school. It was at the back of a mangrove. Nobody knew they were there. So when Jojimar Gonzalez shared the story to Jay, who I met in Zamboanga, and he shared the story to me, I was bothered. And Jay also was equally disturbed that when he got home, he shared a post on Facebook. So this is like, we should never underestimate the power of one small deed. Like, just like this single post, it changed the world for a lot of kids. Okay, this is the community, our first community. And from that first community and this first boat that we donated so that kids don't have to swim to go to school, we're now present in over 219 communities nationwide. We have given out 4,836 boats, 12 schools, 5 dormitories, 30 adventure boats, 5 bangpernungan. This is from as far north as Zambales and as far south as Sulu. So who are we? Actually, we are a 100% volunteer-driven organization, just like ANSHU. We draw our strength from our community and our inspiration also. So from just providing boats to give them physical access, we're now into a lot of things. So how do we do what we do? As a volunteer-driven organization, we strongly believe that bayanihan is the only way to go, which is collaboration among the different stakeholders. And we believe that the communities have far more to offer than us, as what Anshu have said. We believe that we have to invert the triangle. Why should the mass at the bottom support the tip, while the tip should be supporting the bottom? So we believe in inverting the triangle. When we spot a community in need, or when somebody reports to us about a kid swimming to school, or somebody needing boats, or somebody hiking, we normally send immediately someone closest to that community to investigate and try to see what we can do. So after checking, identifying the specific need, we look for a local implementer. We don't start a community until we have a local implementer, because we know solutions will have to come from within, because they know best. Just like when in our first community, it was actually the local community leaders who gave the solution. When we were first fundraising when Jay first posted the story on Facebook as his Facebook status, a lot of suggestions came from well-meaning friends. They told us let's build them a bridge, or why not relocating them on dry land? Why don't we build a road connecting them to school? Or why not even build a school? These are very good solutions, but we know if we did that, probably we're still on our fundraising stage. But one thing nice about getting the solution from the community was the very suggestion from them. They said, Just give us a boat and we'll take care of ourselves. And that's where the yellow boat story started. So after identifying the community, we immerse ourselves for us to know more what they need and what the solutions are. And in executing the project, just like ANSHU, we require sweat equity from the community, because if there's one thing that will rob the community of their dignity is constant dole-outs. They said every time we give something to them, or we say, quote and unquote, donate things to them, we diminish their dignity. But when they are part of the solution, when they are part of the building process, they cease to be beneficiary. They become stakeholders. That's why the story of ANSHU and Gunch really, really resonated. I'm very happy that we're sort of validated, and it's hard work working with the community, but it's something that we are willing to do. After the project turnover, we continue to engage with them to make sure that the solution provided will not only give them physical access to school, but actually change their lives. Because we're not after a kid going to school, we're actually after changing the lives of the community, getting them out of poverty. Because when you graduate a kid from high school, even high school or senior high school, you're not only changing the life of that one kid, but you're actually effective change, bringing out of poverty the whole family. So we stay with the community and provide other needs. One thing nice about the boat is that during morning and afternoon, they bring kids to school, to and from school. But in between, the parents can use it for livelihood. There, it becomes sustainable. We are not only making sure that the kids get to school safe and dry, we also are making sure that the family gets the livelihood so that they don't have to take their kids out of school to help them put food on the table. I would like to share with you an example of this father, Father Larry. He's a Caribbean missionary. He reached out to us because of this. During high tide, kids will have to wade in water or ride a plastic basin to go to school. And that broke his heart. And having saw our story on Facebook, he immediately reached out to us. From there, we started building. Of course, like ANSHU, we start working with the community. I'm a big believer in that, because what you build, if you're building your own boat, you will not only ensure that you don't do any shortcuts, because your own life is at stake. You will do a lot to make sure that it will work. So this is the community, and this is now the boat bringing kids to school. And that's it. And here then, we found out that the community, in spite of having the boats, some of the kids don't go to school. If you know the community of Father Larry, it's populated by Sama Bajau, and they're very peace-loving. They're often bullied because they are the meek of the Muslim tribes. Normally, they keep on transferring their houses because every time they're bullied, they don't fight. They just look for another place. So we found out that they're often bullied in school. So they would stop schooling because of that. So we decided to build them a school. So again, we asked the community to help, and these are the tatays in the community, the fathers. And how do you pile drive in the middle of a mangrove, concrete posts, 15 to 20 feet long in some areas? Well, here it is. If this is not ingenious, I don't know what is. And this is the community now. We have the school, the bridge, and the boats. And again, from what you saw, collaboration and synergy is the key. It's not about who gets the credit or who did the job. It's about the collective impact. So these are our inspiration. Every time I feel down, I feel tired, I look at this photo and I'm good. So really every great story starts when somebody decides to care. And that has been the story from the start. And the story of ANSHU really reinforced that. And would like to thank Ramon Magsaysay Foundation for inviting us to share this story. Salamat po.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Doc Anton. All your stories are so beautiful. We do have Meenakshi on hand. So she might want to say a couple of things, perhaps, to, just in terms of responding, or just to round out the discussion before we go to the Q&A.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. And thank you, Dr. Anton and others panelists. It's been very inspiring listening to all of you. It is a great honor to come back to the Ramon Magsaysay Foundation's work. We feel every time it's like coming back to the family. Always a pleasure, always the warmth that we feel all the way here in India. I just wanted to sort of touch upon, before we go to the virtual tour, one of my personal, the most moving thing in the citation, which was written for ANSHU, recognizing the work back in 2015, was where the jury had talked about how he has transformed the culture of giving in India. And to us, that is a huge statement, because changing the culture of a society is by itself, it's a mammoth task. And I would just like to dwell upon that before we go into the processing center. So basically, I was just saying that what we do in the cities of India is really to change the mindset about giving. When we give, like ANSHU touched upon it in the beginning, that you think of yourself as a donor and the person who's receiving your material as a beneficiary. And this understanding about us and the people in the, the so-called poor in the villages, to change that understanding, to change that mindset, we talk about the stories of people who we've all mentioned right now, but I think with a different saying. So just to highlight and underline that aspect of what you're going to see in the processing centers, that material has come to us as people contributing with a mindset of being a participant in change. And we are doing it on a mass scale. We are trying to do also talk to corporates and retail brands, where we are engaging with them to go back to the public to say that there is a lot of stuff lying unused in your homes. This is the dormant material which is lying unused at homes. And how do we bring it back into the the process cycle where it can be more useful for people? So all of that is going on, and you'll see the outcome of that. Processing center is a very special place for us, because we are looking at creating dignity right there before it actually goes to the villages. So over to the foundation to take it over and take us to the processing center.
Great. Thank you. We are very excited to move to New Delhi. We'll bring in some of our guests for some, maybe one or two questions. I'd like to call in Ms. Marisa Camacho, convener of Bridging Leaders, a former colleague and friend of RMAF, Dr. Lailani Pavilando, professor at Bicol University and now consultant on community resilience for Ginobatan Albay LGU, also a friend partner of RMAF in past fora on disaster preparedness. We are also bringing in friends from India, from the Gunj chapter in Kerala. Chiranjit Galen, he oversees the Gunj chapter in Kerala, that's the regional south, a coastal region south of India, and Kolkata chapter. And Jighisha Maheta, she looks at Chennai operations, also in South India. Maybe one or two questions from the floor before we fly to Delhi. Dr. Pavilando.
Okay, good afternoon.
All the way from Bicol.
Okay, great.
Hello everyone. We've just again been hit by Typhoon Kinta,
Yeah.
but not as bad. It's good that the power had been restored. Now, thank you for inviting me. And I'm happy even with the title of Creating Solutions with Communities, not for communities. It's really very apt because it shows the active involvement of communities. Now, I would like to say hello to Anshu. I met him already personally. And I would like to commend his project, previously the Cloth for Work, now the Dignity for Work. I believe that for people to become resilient, they have to have self-worth. To me, that is what dignity is all about. Replacing charity with dignity is really worth emulating. The process followed recognizes the important role of people in helping them create solutions for their identified needs. My question is, did you encounter any problem or constraint when you started the project with the community in terms of their attitude and also the local officials? And if yes, what did you do about it or to address it?
So my simple answer is that there is nothing which you try to change and does not face any problem or resistance, because I think it is called mindset because it is set. That is why it is called mindset. And then there are power dynamics. Every single person is holding the power, and especially in this kind of work, a lot of people are holding power by not doing something and just by promising something. So, but the fact remains, in my opinion, that we also need to, again, I'm going back to the lenses which we are wearing. There are lots and lots of preconceived notions about the community. We, sitting in big cities and in our offices, we assume or we feel that people are like this, people will do like this, people will react like this. But in reality, it is, to be honest, in my opinion, 100% different, because only couple of people in the community might object or say different things, which even in a close family of 4 to 5 people who are born, who have lived together, also happen. That's a difference of opinion, and within the family also there are power games, right? But I think in the community, if you speak their language, if you respect in terms of what they are, instead of imposing something, the battle is very easy, in my opinion. To be honest, we faced much more crisis in the cities to change the mindset, to still struggling to change the giving habits, and why it is important to give a usable, give usable material to people instead of giving whatever in the name of charity. Because charity might be a very beautiful subject with the best possible intention for the doer of it, but it's never a favorite subject of the receiver of it. That's a very important part. So the moment you take out communities and give that respect what they deserve, and like we go and we surrender, we literally say that, listen, none of our family member has ever made a bamboo bridge, none of our family member has ever done a well or a road, right? So it is you with whom we will work, and it is you from whom we will learn. I think that language matters a lot, that lens matters a lot. And saying that, for sure, in certain cases, the resistance was there. It took a lot of time also. But I think, we are not there to give up just because 5 people in the village or a community are not cooperating. Rather, in a strategic way, we actually work on the both side of that village. And when the impact start happening, the people from this basic village will come to you, and then we will say, Ki, boss, we are there, you need to take care of it internally, and then we'll come again. So we don't remember in the last 2 decades that even one place we have left because of any conflict or because of any issue. Yes, in some cases we took much more time than the normal time, but we did it.
So persistence really works.
It works.
So you don't have to go through the local officials, because in our case, we have to go to the local officials, talk to them first. before
We
introducing the franchise?
we have to in certain cases. My answer to that is that, and this is what I always say, that this is something like a war, fine, when you do such kind of work. And war you never win with the weapons, war you win with the strategy. And the strategies need to be different in different places. Your value system has to be same, but strategies need to be different. So what works in a particular community will will not work at all in the B community, and that's where you'll have to localize it and do it. So in many cases, we have to go through politicians, go through officials, go through village committees. In I mean, this is just a mix of thing, and especially in a country like India, which is known for its diversity, where you have such huge difference and such huge variety of language to food to living habits to what people eat, wear, and all. I think you really have to see that what relationship will work well in which province, in which area, and then go with that. Simple. Because ultimate objective is that it has to happen in a very value based, honest way of approaching it.
I like what you said, that war is not won by weapon, but by strategy. Thank you for that. Thank you all.
Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My question to Anshu, can you give us an idea about how the community work has been affected by the COVID pandemic, with the health protocols and all that? How has your community work been affected?
One thing which is very important, is that we need to really see this disaster in a different way, because earlier the disaster used to happen in one locality and other localities used to get into the support part. Now this is a pan-India or pan-world disaster, number one. I'm just setting up a little bit context before I answer that. And second, very, very important part is that for such kind of work, you need lot of physical work, lot of physical meetings. And the basic norm of this particular work was it will not work like that. Third important part is that a lot of people call us development organization, many organization what Dr. Anton run and other people run. But I always feel that we are not even development organization, we are a survival organization, because large part of our society lives in minus level, and development is from 0 to 10, but we bring people from minus to 0, which is actually the survival mode. Now, what we need to understand that these communities, whole lot of us were trying to bring back, bring those people to 0 or to 1 or to 2 level. Large number of those people have gone back to minus level now. So the needs have changed. Suddenly, more than the growth need, the development need, it has come back to the survival need now. I think that is one of the biggest effect which has happened. So we literally had to redo a lot of stuff where we had moved out of, food or basic other issues, and we were talking more about education and health and so many other issues. We have gone back to the communities and again revisited our work and said, no, we again have to restart with the food, with the very basic infrastructure, with the basic water and all that. And apart from that, now the worst thing which has happened in Philippines, in India, in many other countries, that all other disasters are in any case happening. You just spoke, about a cyclone. So we also have, in 6 months, we have gone through two major cyclones, one of the worst cyclones, and also floods all across. And then there is a disaster which is like everywhere. So every single disaster becomes a top-up disaster. Uh, and also there is huge amount of migration which has happened, reverse migration. So the need in those communities has certainly gone up, and resources are drying up. So this is a scenario where we stand, as of now. Very complicated for sure. But we are just looking at maybe additional talent in the community, which has come back from the cities to do some more meaningful work. But one thing which I need to say that except the immediate need of the food for first few days, we actually went back to our dignity for work model. And even with the increased population, decreased resources, even today it is working well. Yes, we obviously had to redefine a lot of things. We had to localize a lot of stuff. Our model of hub and spoke didn't work for some time because logistics was a nightmare. and also costs were going up. So we have procured almost 190,000 kgs of vegetables from the local people, to be given locally, so that we have less human touch and we have more nutrition and more economic power. So we revisited our model, but the core philosophy of respect, I think, remained same, and community also valued that, and the new people who have come there have also valued that, because there is a base to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So thank you. Yes, Miss Emily, let's proceed to our Delhi trip.
Yes. No travel restrictions here. Let's go. Okay, Anshu, take it away.
Yeah. Please, I think the tech team will do the
Okay.
wonders. My role is only to introduce two of my colleagues, Garima and Anmol. Garima works with the communication team, and Anmol works with the project team. And these two young ladies will actually take you through the entire processing center. And processing center is spread over in say a few thousand square feet. We will only take you through to say about three portions of that, just to give you the glimpses of the entire center, and it is obviously there in many other cities also. So over to the team to take me also through, because even in many cases we are also doing a lot of things visually now or virtually now.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I welcome you all to our processing unit in Delhi. So in our processing unit, basically we get all the material through different stakeholders, like our volunteers, institutions, schools, colleges, etc. So here we are today at the cloth sorting unit. Here the cloth is sorted in three basic categories. The first category of cloth is in good condition. The second category of cloth has minor problems and has to go through repair or washing. As I can just give you an example here. For example, this cloth has a minor problem of zip, and then further this cloth will be taken to our repair center and the zip will be fixed and the cloth again would be in the use. Similarly, one more example of the second category cloth, we have a few stains at this cloth and this will further go to our washing area. So this will be washed. The third category of cloth is beyond repair and is not suitable for the rural India. Again, the sorted material is carefully further segregated into various age groups, say women, men, and children. Here is our woolen section. Segregation of woolens are done in a similar way as to the previous one, keeping in mind that winters is a disaster. So Goonj, the entire year, basically Goonj is prepped for the winters and we collect woolens throughout the year. The sorting part is done. Once the sorting is done, here is the assembling room. So further, the clothes are then made into these bundles of men, women, and children, and then included in our family kit. As the name tells, a family kit consists of all the basic items and essentials that a family would need. In our family kits, we consist of utensils, clothes for men, women, and children, basic toiletries, maybe mosquito nets, toothpastes, and of course, keeping in mind the situation, the masks now, and some dry ration or dry groceries, and some toys. Just like the family kit, we have other kits as well. The marriage kit consists of the wedding attires of men and women, along with the other toiletries, footwear, jewelry. Taking you forward to the office kit, which provides the basic stationeries to our partner organizations. The Anganwadi kit, here I would just like to add something. The Anganwadi kit is basically the preschooling kit or a kit specifically for kids in rural India. It consists of stationery, maybe colors or some sketchbooks, with cloth items, footwear, and of course, toys, which bring a huge smile on the rural India, and it gives us immense pleasure. Taking you further to the next section. Goonj in last 21 years have experienced all the major disasters. And, from all the major disasters, we have understood that rural India and people suffer a lot once they're left with no livelihood option or with a job. So this is our Vapsi initiative, which is basically bringing back, or we call it the livelihood kit, which consists of all the basic items, tools that an individual would need to revive their livelihood. For example, this recent pandemic and ongoing pandemic had left a lot of migrant workers and a lot of people with no job. So utilizing their skills and talents and efforts, these kits is given to them as a support so that they can start their livelihood again. These are just a few kits right here. So Pan India, we develop various kits according to the need, according to the situation of the villages and areas. As I mentioned earlier, in the family kit, we do have utensils, and these utensils are segregated into plastic and steel. They are washed, cleaned, and then packed and included in our kits further. Talking of family kits, here we have ration, the dry ration being packed. At this point, the pulses. They are packed, wrapped in potli, and then included in our kits. Goonj gets variety of material, Pan India. So we have medical equipments, electronics, bags, and here is the shoe sorting area. The shoe is being sorted here. Sorting of shoes happen in a similar way. The categorization is being done. And then these shoes are tied into pairs, put in this potli. And then these potlis are further included in our kits. When there is just a single shoe which is not in use, so those single shoes are then taken forward to organizations or people who would just want one pair of shoes. They might be the disabled ones. So, no material or no shrink is basically left unutilized at Goonj. So after all this sorting is done, here we are at the packing area. The kits are then packed here with lots and lots of love and care and then dispatched to the rural area. I would then give this over to my colleague Anmol, who would take us further.
Greetings everyone. Now we are in our school to school section. Under this initiative, we try to bridge the vast material gap between urban schools and rural schools. I am going to show you how. Here, we are able to see books segregated into two categories, urban and rural. The urban books basically include higher secondary books or other, one is study material and the other are the fiction and other books. So these are basically used by urban organizations that may be in need or also are displayed in book fairs. The rural books basically consist of primary class books or other religious books that are sent to the rural India for the kids to explore the colorful side of the world. The last section here is the library kit. This also includes, along with the books, the other relevant material that is to be sent to a library in rural villages. The second section here is the school kit making section. This will be reused by a by a kid in rural India, and this also plays an important role in their enhanced education. Now here you can see the constituents of a school kit. One of the most important elements of these kits is the asan, which is also known, which is a sitting mat, and where in rural India, the kids do not have anything to sit on while they study in their schools, be it summers or winters.
I think Anmol was trying to show us the library kit.
Yeah.
And the library kit is where they put together lunch boxes, pencil box, bags and shoes necessary for school items. And I think she was also trying to show us that if they receive some toys and board games, they put that in the school kit. And then I think the last item she was trying to point to us is that there is this something that they use to sit down.
Whatever weather it may be it cold or hot, the children have to sit on the ground. And this plays an essential role in their continuous learning at these schools. And the material, the notebooks, the used notebooks that we receive from urban kids, the used pages are then taken out of those notebooks, and the remaining pages, these become the part of the school kits and then are channelized to rural India. Apart from the basic stationery and school materials, we also receive toys from the urban India, and these toys come in 3 categories: soft toys, hard toys, and board games. The soft toys are washed properly here at our processing centers, and these are not only sent under this initiative, but also our initiative, the Disaster Relief and Rehabilitation Initiative known as RAHAT, which means relief, where it becomes an important part of our family kit to keep the kids engaged in the disaster distressed time. So here are the toys. Over to my colleague, Garima.
Here I am at the Not Just a Piece of Cloth unit, wondering what are these pieces of cloth. Let me take you in. So as I mentioned about the 3rd category of cloth, which is beyond repair, out of those bundles, we pick the cotton cloth. And then those cotton cloths go through the rigorous process, starting from that cloth, the laces are removed, the hooks are removed, the buttons are removed, and then those cloths are soaked in water overnight with detergent and washed 2 to 3 times and then sanitized. Later dried in sun and ironed so that no moisture is left. So with that sanitized cloth, basically, Gunj make its sanitary napkin MyPad. Here, as you can see, this is our cutting unit. The sanitized cloth is then cut into specific measured pieces, layered nicely. And then further taken to this room where the stitching of the cloth takes place. These layers of cloth are then stitched nicely to make a sanitary napkin. Once these sanitary napkins are stitched, they go through again a process of metal detection through a magnet so that there's no iron or any unwanted material attached to it. Further, these 8 napkins are then packed into this MyPad portly along with a few very essential items like the undergarments. So in rural India, it's very important for us to create a dialogue between the women. So MyPad or this portly is not a product for us. It is a tool basically
to initiate conversations and narratives with women out in village. Considering menstruation as a taboo, just as a little lovable effort of ours, we mentioned this pamphlet which has some do's and don'ts. Women in village need to travel long distance, and this flex actually helps them doing this. They can carry their MyPad in this, which is leak-proof and waterproof. As we mentioned earlier, that at Gunj, dignity is our priority, and nothing is given for free. At Women, we take this chance through our NJPC initiative that we build conversations with them and include them in various activities like kitchen gardening, well cleaning, bathroom making, etc. And as a reward, we give them this women kit, which consists of all the basic essentials for the women.
Now we are going to show you around our Green by Goonj section. This area includes our designers that come up with a wide variety of products. And here, all the women that you see here who are working have not had any formal training in this area. However, Goonj provides them with the space to use their ideas and skills and imagination and come up with various designs of products. I am quickly going to show you a few of them.
Disconnect.
This is a bag. This is a bag that is made out of a car seat cover. So this has been made out of a car seat cover. Since we are not able to, since neckties do not have much relevance in rural India, we reuse those as well to make pouches like these in these bags. Other than that, this is another item which is a denim bag made out of a denim jeans. The fabric here that you are seeing has been made using a cassette tape that we used to use earlier to listen to songs. So this tape has been woven with the thread and using this handloom equipment and made into this sturdy fabric. Another item, so we ensure that even the last piece of cloth is also utilized and not sent to landfill. And this mat that you're seeing has been made out of shreds of cloth. This is also used by people here. The third cloth category item that we have is this asan which was a sitting mat, as I showed you in the previous section. This becomes a part of our school kits and is channelized to rural India. And this as well has been made using these last shreds of cloth, ensuring that no piece of cloth is disposed or thrown away. And so all this material that we are receiving, all that material that cannot be reused or reworn or reutilized is converted into products like these. And here is a wide range of products that we just mentioned. Just quickly glancing through that. These products are displayed at various fairs, corporate stalls, and are used to raise funds, which are the resources generated are used by Goonj for its daily operations. So that is basically for the urban engagement. For rural engagement, we specifically have other items. One of the items is Goonj Ka Jhola. We call it Goonj Ka Jhola. It's a cloth bag which can be used for regular carrying of grocery items, fruits, vegetables. And this bag is basically to promote the idea of use of cloth bags instead of plastic bags, which at the end of the day end up in rivers or water bodies, contaminating the drinking water for villages. One more item that we make is called a sujni. Sujni can be used as a quilt in winters and can be used as a mattress in summers by the rural families. And this is an essential part of our family kits. And here I'll show you. This is also made using the age-old tradition of using the smaller pieces of cloth stitched into a larger piece of cloth and making it a one piece, again being channelized to the rural families. The last but not the least section that we have here is the paper reuse and recycle section. Here you can see piles and piles of paper that we receive from corporates, from individuals, from schools, etc. And all this paper that you're seeing is one side used. And I'm very happy to tell you that in the last 21 years of Goonj's existence, we have not purchased one fresh piece of paper. And the same paper is used for our official documents and printing for all the printing purposes. Here you can see all that paper that is used on one side is being stamped. Ignore this side, join Goonj for reuse of paper. And on the other side, that was blank earlier, we have a Goonj pamphlet or a flyer. The same paper is used to make notepads. One side is used, the other side can be reused. And even the visiting cards that we have are made out of recycled paper. We also encourage our contributors to contribute their newspapers, that are then reused by us to make paper bags. And apart from that, the bundles that come to us also come with stapler pins, many of them. And we also try to use everything till its last use. And here you can see a bundle of stapler pins, which are segregated using a magnet. And these are then sold in the market. The idea is not just to raise funds out of this, but the fact that nothing should be thrown away to landfills or should be disposed, because at the end of the day, when the other animals also are going to go to landfills, they will not be harmed by these smallest items that are not visible otherwise. So with this, we conclude our visit to the Delhi Processing Center. And this is not even half the volume of the whole process. We are dealing with over 5,500 tons of material annually. And apart from the Delhi center, we have 7 other centers in various cities of India. So we will be happy if you are ever in Delhi or any of the other cities where we have our processing centers, to show you around and to have you over to give you a better and much deeper insight into our work. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the visit.
Thank you. Amazing.
Incredible. That's great. Shall we, do you want to do a few more questions, or shall we go to the next set of panelists?
Would there be any burning questions on what you just saw? Or any reaction? We're seeing reaction. They say, oh, it's amazing. It's very organized.
Thank you so much, Garima and Anmol.
Is the center in Karnataka and Kerala also? Do you have centers in the same in Kerala?
Yes.
Chiranjit Gayan is here, and our friend handling Chennai. Do you have the same center?
Yes, we have. We have in Kerala and Chennai too.
We have the same centers in Cochin and Bangalore in Karnataka, and also in Chennai. So there are 4 centers in southern India: Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, and this thing Cochin. And then we have in Kolkata, Delhi, Mumbai. So all these big cities have this large scale, almost similar centers, and one major center in Rishikesh, which is in northern India, dealing with almost same quantities.
Yeah, and it's how organized it is. I think that's the common reaction. You're so organized. What's the secret?
Secret? What is the secret? I don't know. Jigisha, Chiranjit, you want to answer on the secret part? Because there is no secret. There is nothing. It's just that system. Yeah, Jigisha. Jigisha looks after work in Chennai. Jigisha, if you can respond.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. So basically, there is no secret because we think that we are working for the people who are in need. And we believe that whatever we give to them, we should also, able to use those materials. So whatever we can use, we should give to the people. And that's why we believe that if we are managed and we are, in a proper way, managing the things and everything, then it should go to the people who are in need. So there is no secret. It's just believe that we should do things properly for the people who are at the receiving end and for their dignity.
And also, I would say that, we are talking about the respect of people, and our connecting point and the reason why with what we are connected is material. So if we do not respect material, we will not respect people also. We will not respect our team also, because that's our core idea. That's our core strength. And we should only give what we can also use. Because what matters is not only what we give, but it also matters how we give. I think that how part is an extremely important part. So this entire center is just talking about the how part of it. What even we don't have any control. We even get, unfortunately, in across the globe, we get a lot of distorted material in all these centers, in various other institutions also. But it is our now work to make sure that only the good part goes, which if needed, even we can use. I mean, it should be of that standard. Otherwise, there's no fun in this work, because it's all about dignity of human being at the end of the day. So I would say dignity is the secret, the focus on that.
Well, yeah, well said. I think I think we all agree that when we put dignity into the work, to the recipient, then everything will follow. Thank you so much to the virtual team. A round of applause to our tour guide, Anmol and Garima. Thank you so much to our team there, headed by Mina, Bisoya, Sandeep Raj, and Manoj Kumar. So we will now proceed to the fourth segment of this interaction. We will now focus on the voices of the future and how we can deepen the culture of giving and spirit of volunteerism among the youth and the private sector. In this second part of the webinar, we are happy to partner with Tayo Award Foundation to share with us their thoughts and programs on the topic. As we know, the Tayo Awards is the country's award-giving body that recognizes and supports outstanding contributions of youth organizations in the country. So this afternoon, we have with us the very young Executive Director of Tayo Awards, Patricia Matute. Following Trish is an awardee of Tayo. Our second discussant is Jai Haji Sapiin, who heads the youth organization Super Lumba. That has set up a successful social enterprise on food production. Jai has engaged the marginalized sectors in Lanao del Sur, down south in Mindanao, in the production and selling of palapa, a Maranao condiment, helping the communities to rebuild after the trauma of the Marawi siege. She is the youngest member of the Marawi Reconstruction Conflict Watch of International Alert Philippines. Welcome to the panel, Jai. And in this segment, we are very happy to link up and renew our partnership with one of the well-known and one of the longest-running corporate foundations in the country, the ABS-CBN Lingkod Kapamilya Foundation. They will share to us, Jen Diomano Santos will share to us their deep experience as one of the first responders from the private sector to provide relief support and assistance during disaster. Welcome, ladies, to the panel. I now turn over the grid to you. Let's begin with Tayo. Tricia Matute.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm still in awe of what we just saw in Gunj. Like I was trying to look at it with the lens of youth groups and organizations, since those are the people that I'm trying to stand in for this panel. And I guess it's just a dream turned reality for youth groups and organizations, seeing that from a passion project of 65 pieces of clothing. Am I right, Anshu? That's the first number of pieces of clothing that you shared. You now turn that passion project into a factory, serving millions of Indians who's not needing just clothes, but actually dignity. And it's just inspiring, I guess, to see that in action, especially with the lens of young people trying to start up a small project in a small community, just like Jai, who did that in Lanao del Sur. And that's what we do in the Tayo Awards Foundation. What we do is we inspire more young people to join collectives, because we believe that in collectives, our efforts, our strategies, our creativity, our dynamism, and our impact gets to be multiplied. And in so doing, we create change in communities. And I guess I'll jump right in one example. One example that has been a favorite, I guess personally, from part of the Tayo Secretariat years after the Angat Kabataan ng Taytay Rizal. Apart from them being my neighbor, I'm from Taytay Rizal. The founder also has turned into a good friend. Angat Kabataan ng Taytay Rizal, the project entry that they submitted way back 2012 was when they rehabilitated the Maningning Creek in Taytay Rizal. If you're, for our friends from India and to those who are watching all over the Philippines who are not familiar with Filipino, Maningning is like shining, shimmering, splendid. That's our usual spill for Maningning Creek. It connotes really good adjectives for a creek. But if you would see Maningning Creek way before the project, you would think that that's not Maningning at all. it wouldn't even look like a creek. It would probably look like a mud flat. And the project of Angat Kabataan of Taytay Rizal, they rehabilitated the Maningning Creek. And somehow it sounds so simple. At first, when I came into the office and I heard the story, just like, oh, they rehabilitated this creek, and everyone was so excited in telling their story. And I was like, no, why are you so excited? It was just about rehabilitating a creek. What's so amazing about that? And then when I heard their story, they did not just rehabilitate generations worth of trash, but they also rehabilitated the disbelief of people around rehabilitating that creek. Because I guess let's take a step back. Angat Kabataan ng Taytay Rizal is a youth group. They are just 5 groups of friends who do not have enough resources to even hire a backhoe, the ones that you use to actually call out dirt in creeks. And all they have is the guts to keep on writing letters to their mayors, to their barangay captain, to search for solutions even on YouTube on how they could rehabilitate the creek. And so from their stories, the creek, from all the trash that they were able to get from that creek, you could easily build a house. You could actually, they got a sofa from the lurking waters of that creek. And what's more amazing is that more than just rehabilitating the creek, like the visual of it was the story behind how were they able to rehabilitate that creek. They tapped the community to help them. And so like hearing the story of Gunj and how ANSHU tapped, not just, they're not just beneficiaries, but they are really stakeholders and partners in doing the project. And that's what Angat Kabataan of Taytay Rizal did. They talked to the elders of the community, the generations before them. They discussed at first they shared the vision on why do we want to rehabilitate this creek? Why do we want to change the current state of this creek? And how are we going to work as a community, not just the organization, not just the volunteers who would work through it, but the whole community? And what was at stake? I was taking notes earlier during ANSHU's talk, and he was like, it was about the pair of pants, ANSHU, that you've mentioned, that it might be yours, but I've earned it. I believe Angat Kabataan ng Taytay Rizal had that moment because apart from rehabilitating the creek, after onboarding the community, they were also able to provide livelihood to the mothers in the area. And one of the strategies this organization did to rehabilitate the creek was, apart from, the ingenuity of local experts, the community members, they're the ones who actually suggested to the org that we don't have to buy huge long nets to call out that trash. They asked, what if let's just get some old bamboo poles and ask our local junkyards, do you know the fan of your electric fans? I know in India you also have electric fans because it gets humid there too. But do you know that fan, the front fan of your electric fan? They use that to be the scooper of floating debris in the creek. You don't have to buy, they said, you don't have to buy everything. Just ask your local junk shop. Apart from asking for donations for possibly, can we borrow your backhoes from your local government unit? That small ingenuity. I don't look at an electric fan the same way after hearing that story. To searching YouTube on the technology of bokashi balls. Bokashi balls is like a mud ball with infused probiotic microorganisms to invigorate the life in the creek after culling out all that trash. And so they tapped the mothers to actually create it by hand. And so moving forward, even after the rehabilitation of the creek, these mothers now have a livelihood. They now supply bokashi balls to other river rehabilitation projects all across the Philippines and even in Southeast Asia. And now they train others in this technology. And more so on providing livelihood, the team now developed, because upon hearing more of how these mothers have developed a livelihood, their husbands are now asking the organization, what about us? Because they don't have the money. All the money is in their wives. They ask money from their wives, can I have some money? Because, I want to buy stuff or I want to go out. And then so they ask the fathers, the husbands now ask, what's in it for us too? Can you help us create a livelihood? And now the organization also developed propagating endemic bamboo species that they also used along the creek. And so these fathers could sell and propagate this endemic bamboo species to help in their livelihood. But more than these quantitative impact, more than these, livelihood and environmental impact that rehabilitating the creek would do, I feel like my greatest takeaway and my most meaningful take-home point in learning this story is that they were able to supply hope in their community and across Southeast Asia. Ang At Kabataan ng Taytay Rizal was awarded as the best river rehabilitation project in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, and are still helping other communities in Southeast Asia rehabilitate their rivers. And so imagine that's generations of disbelief that the river cannot be rehabilitated ever. Just like the concept on it is just give up on it. And more than that, the disbelief that young people can do something. And to think that this is an environmental project, that's for us, that's a big win for young people to prove that young people have the capacity. Young people, and not just young people, but groups of people, bands of people with the same project and with the same vision could create impact, could create meaningful change in communities. And listening through Gunj and Anshu's story, with problems that seem so big or social issues too daunting, but if we pair our creativity, dynamism with hope and key people that we know we can work with, change is possible. And so, siguro I'll just, as quick note, at the time of the COVID-19, at the Tayo Awards Foundation, we thought that we actually considered taking a pause on recognizing youth efforts across the Philippines. But then we were thinking, maybe this is the best time to actually call out the stories of bayanihan, of helping together, of banding together, of people power. And we were floored by how the young people responded, by how the Filipino responded. We were able to break our record was 360, if I'm not mistaken, 2016. We received 853 entries across the Philippines this year. And by just that number, we were able to prove that, even at a time that we feel like we're most depressed on what's happening all over the Philippines, local initiatives truly prove that you are not alone in what you're doing. And creativity, dynamism, the Filipino spirit of bayanihan. I'm not sure if there's a local bayanihan term also in India, but I believe that there is. It doesn't fail you in inspiring and moving forward. And it's, I'm still basking on the story of Gunj, and I'm really excited to really share that story to other youth groups and organizations who might be wondering, would our work even reach that threshold of reaching the whole Philippines? And yeah, thank you everyone for sharing this, and thank you for Ramon Magsaysay for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Tayo Awards. Thank you, Trish.
Yeah, well, Trish, you just shared the stage, with Gunj. Right there. So we go to the next, or we're kind of compressed for time here. Right? Okay. Super Lumba. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
All right. I'll be needing help for the assistance for the technicalities. Hello po, Assalamualaikum. I am Julila Haji Sapiin. I'm from Marawi City. And definitely, we're all amazed to the stories of Gunj. This is really an inspiration for us to do more and be better. And thank you for the opportunity for us to share our stories. In today's webinar for creating solutions with communities, I love the idea of the with communities. I will present the story of us and how Super Lumba made the power of we possible. We started as a group, with five members way back 2016. I was the team leader, and we eventually grew as a family in the process of developing our projects. We are actively working with two projects. One is to address the economic challenge in the province. Remember that when we were formed, it was pre-Marawi siege. The pressing issue at that time was more on the economic challenge. And that is where we work on a change project that empowers women and helps them earn to be able to help their families. The other project is more of peace formation programs, and it is focused on children and youth. We introduced the concept of social enterprise to a group of 10 mothers. With the grant we received from Ayala Foundation, it was actually more or less $200. That's 10,000 Filipino money. And we thought of a product that may represent us as Mranaos. We introduced Palapa. This is a Mranao spicy condiment in the mainstream and named it after the municipality the project was implemented. Our goal was that we wanted our municipality to be known because of that product. And then it was very challenging at the beginning because Mranaos are traditionally traders. The concept of social enterprise for them is very, very new. And just like what Ms. Kashi just said a while ago, that to change mindset is very difficult. But in the long run, it went well. However, when the siege happened, our operations were greatly affected as we needed to stop in a while. But alhamdulillah, we were given the opportunity to bounce forward. I love that idea, to bounce forward, to pitch the project to the US Embassy through their campaign #4Mindanao. We then received another project grant wherein we were able to buy equipment and tools that made the production easier and better with more mothers as our partners. In the process of promoting the product, the mothers raised their concerns regarding the technical aspects of posting and marketing this product in social media. It was resolved when a member of the team joined in a program wherein we got the idea of reaching more partners. We then included out-of-school youth that we empower to be part of the cause, who eventually turned to be working students. Because they already started earning. Now, from that 10 members, we're now from the 10 mothers, we're now having in partnership with 30 mothers, including the other members of the families. From that 13 OSYs, there are already 5 of them who graduated in college. And alhamdulillah, 3 of them are now currently working. 3 of them are now part of the government. 1 is a public school teacher, and 2 of them are contact tracers. We have partnered to 3 restaurants, which also sell our products. At first, they're not getting any commission from that sales because their goal also was to really help us. But then we realized as a team that we give them at least a very minimal percentage of the sales that we do because of the effort they're giving and they're exerting for the team. And then what happened then is that, including that, is the recognitions that we receive. But you know what? The effort that we do, no matter how small or big this is, can really make a difference. In our case, we're able to spice up more lives, especially to our partners. Now, the team is currently working on the team is also working on a change project, that is Project Sindao. Sindao is a Maranao word for light and bright, and we aim to bring light for the bright future of our children IDPs. This is a peace formation program that aims to respond to the vulnerable groups. We visited the evacuation centers and temporary shelters during and after the siege, wherein we do sessions where children IDPs are given the space to express themselves through arts and play. We'll let them share their stories as we also share our stories of hope, love, and faith. This is the usual scenario we have when we are with them. We already conducted peace formations, even in schools, and including more wider array, just like including youth also. And almost 1,000 children have been reached because of this initiative. In this time of pandemic, my batch in Ladyawan Youth and Government is closely working with the Office of the Vice President, Lenny Robredo, in establishing community learning hubs. The hub is a learning facility that provides a safe and conducive learning environment for learners and has educational materials, tools, devices, and equipments, as well as volunteer tutors who can guide and assist learners in their learning. As our team in Super Lumba takes the responsibility in helping this cause, and we also want to continue our advocacy for peace education, we pitched our counterpart in the project to the LeadCom Ready Grant competition and won enough money for us to provide also computer, printer, projector, and speaker that we can use in the learning hub. Now, these are the key partners that believed in us in implementing our cause. They are the one who believed in us. Now, before I end this presentation, remember that a systemic view of the divide and the challenge is required, and that we can do if we only work together. We don't have the monopoly of knowledge and skills. Thus, we need to work collaboratively. We need to build alliances, identify our circle of influence, and select the issues that we would like to influence. In our case at that time, that was Presage, and our only goal was to empower more women and make their dignity also sort of like gain their dignity better. Now, with that, I know that it is difficult to bring people together and make people work together. This has been a challenge in every group. I believe you too experience this, but however, we can change the world by changing how we talk and how we listen. The story of us and now is very vital as we mobilize our head, our heart, and our hand in doing anything that we think can be better and can be beneficial for others. Lastly, there is no small or big project. What is important is that we're able to pass on the light and be the light for others. Thank you very much.
What energy, huh? Thank you. Thank you, Jai. You give us that renewed energy, huh? Thank you so much, all the way from Marawi. Okay, let's move on to our next speaker. Last but not the least, our friend from ABS-CBN, Jen.
Yes, hello. Good day to everyone. First and foremost, thank you to Ramon Magsaysay Foundation for the invitation and for making me part of the second group. I think I am I am in the right group. I am with the younger ones. No, but age is just a number. We all know that in the development sector, and I am very much alive because of the energy that I have felt from the past two speakers. So thank you for that. I would also humbly would want to venture into answering the question of what was there was a question to Mr. Anshu on what may be the secret to how they're doing it. And I think part of it will really be the heart. It's the heart. I heard Miss Gina say it so many times, and it's what I experienced too. If you touch the heart and you lead with the heart, you think of solutions that you may not have thought of before. It's in the Filipino word, it's the word malasakit. When you love something, you will think and do everything that you can to find solutions and to make things work. Everything is possible. I am also going to humbly say that I will only speak of reflections I have also coming from many influences, coming from people I work with. I'm very proud of not just the organization, but really every single person that has come to play into this whole journey of the mission. I think it is really by design that we meet people and we journey with them. It is not work. It is really a mission. There's no other way to say it. One of the things that I would like to share in terms of when I was reading about the work that you do, Mr. ANSHU Gupta, and now hearing you and seeing through the virtual tour what you do, these were the three sort of like phrases that came to mind. One is really shared humanity. It's putting yourself and seeing others as you would see yourself, that there's no distinction, that there's only one world we live in, and the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, we are all tied together. And if you see and view the world that way, then you will treat other people and you will treat the planet the same way that you would yourself, and the way that you would value your life. So to me, I think that's also what was so striking with the work that you do. The word dignity and putting it with disasters, like I said a while ago, it's because you saw them as who they were, not for what they needed, but what they could provide and what they deserved. And that's what pushed you to deal with things and to deal with processes the way that you do now. And I think that's the shift, that's the light bulb moment. It's how we handle things. It's the entire process, not just the final product. It's how we do it. It's as equally as important as the final end product. Whatever project it is the manner by which we do things. And not the most important, but as important as the first two is really sustaining these solutions. It cannot be a one go and then it ends and then there's a plateau and then there's an end again. It needs to be a sustained one. The efforts need to be sustained. It's these three things that I was reflecting on and thinking about when I wanted to also share a little bit of a story of what we do. We are a learning organization as old as the foundation can be or is already. Every day, we constantly ask the question of how can we serve better? There has got to be a way to serve better. We always ask, and this is also something that I have been mentored with by our beloved Miss Gina, always ask the question, what if? Always test and challenge what's happening now. And the what if question that has been on our minds, 2020 is extra challenging to us for many, many reasons. No? The Taal eruption, then the pandemic, organizationally, it's all over the news. It was all over the news. There was also, a challenge that we had to go through. So all this time, more and more our conviction of the what if that we have been asking is being secured. What if we engage in collective impact and create successful models of sustainable area development throughout the country? So this is something that we have started to really try to do in the many areas that we are in. Ever since Ms. Gina set foot in Palawan, maybe about more than a decade ago already. Sometimes as development workers, we tend to maybe go to a site. Potentially, because of our sharp focus, we enter there as an educational NGO or with an environmental perspective or housing or water access. But as we immerse ourselves deeper and deeper into the village and to the communities, we see that there's so much more. But sometimes the perspective is to box them into silos and to box them and compartmentalize them this way. But in our experience, what we have learned is that it doesn't exist that way. As nature teaches us, it exists very dynamically, everything feeding into each other. Solutions can be found in one box or another, but they have to be seen together. And when you zoom out, and this is just dealing with one community, but when you zoom it out, the same dynamic interaction exists among many communities. But here's the thing. you don't need to deal with everything with all of the boxes by yourself. Echoing what has already been said by previous speakers, it's clarity of what you can bring into the table, and number two, saying, I want to be a player amidst a group of many players. That I am ready to learn from many other organizations because I don't have the solution myself. It's really changing the perspective from one sector to cross-sectoral considerations, from individual uncoordinated initiatives to a deliberate dynamic collaboration. That's why I love conversations like this, because it's telling me and it's telling you that I'm here, you're here, we're seeing parallelisms all over the place, we are in the same space, we want the same outcome. Can we forge and really work together? You may be in another country, I may be in another country, but we live in one planet. There is a way to work together and bridge that. Instead of isolated one-off interventions, what do we do instead? Let's engage in actual area development. Then we move from transactional engagements to really transformational engagements. And the work of ANSHU resonates and actually exemplifies that. And transformation doesn't happen just on an organizational perspective. It happens in the soul and the heart and the mind of individuals. So these are just examples of pictures of really at the heart and soul are our primary stakeholders. You know, these are our partners, and we journey with them. It sometimes takes 10 years. The journey is long, but we're here for the marathon. We're not here for the sprint. These are pictures of our different partner communities and primary stakeholders in the entire, in Samar. These are 5 communities that we work with. We enter usually with an environmental perspective and resiliency perspective, also with the child's rights and development perspective. But like I said, what we have learned is that, and like what ANSHU probably experienced, you cannot stop with just those. Then you see the wider perspective of the community, then you bring in partners together. At the heart is really also empowering and providing sort of like a governance structure to the communities. So we journey with them from zero until the time that we are actually obsolete. And that's the time that we're happiest, then we have made ourselves obsolete. We connect the communities to each other. They become teachers and mentors of one another after we journey with them. So a lot of it, as you could see, is with an environmental perspective because, like I said, it is about sustainability, and it is about talking about having conversations on the limited resources that we have. We are very clear too with what we can bring into the table, and one of the major assets we can bring into the table is telling their stories through media. So when we tell the stories of media, it inspires others to do the same and to take on the journey of empowerment, governance. We develop a lot of community-based social enterprises, mostly on the ecotourism side because it's very much adjacent to the work of the environment. When they protect their environment, then they take care of their social enterprise. They clean it, they protect it, they enrich it, they have a sustainable livelihood, they protect protected spaces. Then we talk about other social issues because they can now take care of their families. So just some numbers, but like what ANSHU showed us and his team showed us with a virtual tour, I know there was an entire process and years of really learning and doing before you ended up with what you have now. It's the same way we take the journey with our communities. The numbers you see, there's a story and lots of stories behind these numbers. But it is with grateful hearts really that we are able to share that, that we have communities who are now earning and they are sustaining themselves, and they have replicated and multiplied what they do and have actually inspired other communities in their areas to do the same. This is in Gubat, Sorsogon. We started with a group of what they call themselves Mandirigma, no? warriors in English. And I think in the mission work, we all have to have hearts of warriors. Nothing short of that is being asked of us. The same goes for some of our Yolanda communities in Dulag, Leyte. Really heartwarming stories when you hear them talk and say, never did I imagine that I will own an ecotourism camp and I will find myself. I used to just launder clothes for my family, but I am now a manager of a business. I am now a president of a cooperative. That to us are stories of hope that inspire us to take it on and really continue the work that needs to be done. During the pandemic, the group from Lola Sayong, which is like a surfers group, really pivoted. And again, this is how you see that that they are able to, that you have reached a certain level of empowerment, that they can sustain themselves. They pivoted from being an ecotourism site, from just being an ecotourism site, to innovative ideas that didn't come from us, it came from them. They started doing value-added products. They're doing virtual farms. They're offering virtual investments and impact investments in exchange for non-expiring stays in their areas. We have pivoted some of them to be what we call centers of kindness and community food banks during the time of the pandemic when lockdowns were happening. And what we just wanted to make sure of is that nobody gets hungry, that we are able to feed every Filipino family. So to pivot at the time that there's uncertainty even for their families, to us was such an inspiring. It's so inspiring to know that they have reached that level. So we're very grateful for that. So to us, this is just the last reflections that I wanted to share. It's, we really need to engage in collective impact. It's bringing together collaborators. Yes, it's difficult sometimes to keep on communicating and keep on coordinating, but we have placed ourselves, the state of the planet is also our doing. The state of the reasons why we need social inclusivity, the state of social injustice is as it is because of our doing. Therefore, it is also us that can bring together the solutions and work together. We just need to agree on the end in mind and commit to communicate, coordinate, to be empowered, and to show some sense of ownership. And like I said, it's a journey. It's not something that will happen overnight, but every single day counts. The world calls for large scale and bold solutions because of the problems that we are facing. So bold change needs to happen, and we are asked to do the same. So we say, what about collective impact through area development? We are here, we are ready to converse. Let's dream, let's dare, and let's do together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jen, and the youthful voice and the energy.
Sama na natin
the future is now. No, we pivot to the future. We bring in the next generation of leaders, but we do it now. And thank you so much to our presenters. I think there are some reactions from some youth groups represented here, from Streets to School. Kiel Mariano, Streets to School, and Lester Balauro of iCare. I think they wanted to share some reactions to your presentation, Jai and Trish and Jen. Are they in the grid?
Okay. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay, so hello. Finally, nice to meet you, Miss Patricia. Thank you for taking care of us in last year's tayo as well. So this was very an engaging experience. It was very illuminating. I imagine that sincerity in the sharings of these people. So we learned in philosophy class that the moment we die, that's it. That's our bodies. But if we are able to pass on something, to pass on those ideas, to pass on that influence to other people, to make sure that other people will replicate what you're doing or even do something better, then that's the moment our spirit lives on. And what's so amazing about these people, they come from different backgrounds, different stories, yet they really want to make their own story heard by everyone. And there are so many young people out there who have such great initiatives, who have these amazing ideas, and they all just need an opportunity to change their lives. And we're amazed by how these foundations, the Tayo Awards, the ABS-CBN Foundation, and creating opportunities for people in making sure that they're able to create an impact for others. So Miss Jen also mentioned something from the Yolanda survivors, and I know that one initiative of the Ramon Magsaysay Foundation that they recognized is the PETA Theater in in Yolanda. And it's very amazing that so many people want to reach out when disaster is there. And we're amazed by our awardee for today for allowing us to know that even if there is no disaster, even though it hasn't happened yet, they deserve all our help and attention. And being young people, we have so much more time to give, and it's amazing that we have started as early as now to make an impact for others.
Thank you, Kiel. You are part of the Streets to School organization of young leaders. And I know you've brought some of your colleagues. Thank you for attending this webinar.
Thank
Is
you.
Lester here? Thank you.
Yes.
Lester
yes.
of iCare.
Yes, Miss Carmencita. Lester here.
Go ahead.
Good
Yes,
afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Lester Balauro, and I'm the current coordinator of iCare, which is the social action arm of the Diocese of Novaliches. So, we are actually working in a community of churchgoers, or we are inclined to youth that are serving in our current parishes. So, as a brief background, so we are actually leading this particular program, and we believe that we we make our blessings increase not by asking but with sharing. So that is actually the guiding phrase that iCare is currently living in right now in implementing our projects. And we also try to connect our out of school youth, especially those who are underprivileged, because we believe that there are a lot of opportunities that are already lined up for those people who are blessed with this knowledge, but part of our society are those people who are underprivileged, especially for those people who are not able to finish their studies because of different concerns. So that is actually one of our focus right now, since we are working in churches. So we tend to not only provide something to them, but also to develop their personality as an individual, to become more active participants in restructuring our society. And it is a great privilege also to hear a lot of inspiring youth leaders and youth organizations that are really helping the community in making this a world a better place to live in. So kudos to our partners in Ramon Magsaysay Foundation, and we from the Diocese of Novaliches, representing the Novaliches Diocesan Youth Ministry, we are very privileged to be invited to this webinar, and really we learned a lot. And hopefully we will have partnership with all the organizations involved in this webinar. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We are now towards the end of our webinar, and I will now request our moderator to just give a highlights or summary. Miss Emily.
Here we go.
Here we go.
That was a long, yes, that was a long afternoon, full of stories. I mean, stories we will want to remember and recount. Well, we began with Anshu's story, of course, as a journalist, and perhaps his background as a communications practitioner is what enabled him to truly see, because he talks about putting on a different lens, right? So the Gunj story is replete with lessons and insights, echoed in many ways by our discussants, organizations, and their programs. So that was a great thing to see. It started with Dinky, with her bottom-up solutions that start with what the community knows how to do, begin with what they know how to do, cooking, surveying, and so on and so forth. And she reminds us that, quoting from someone else, that we have to be stubborn optimists. Yes, we have to we have to carry on this job no matter what. Millie shared what they do at NVC. It was a very personal and humble reflection on how they might decompartmentalize their outlook and their operations to bring back a wholeness in the response that they give. She was very, very cognizant of the line, this thought from ANSHU, of course, which is poverty is an ongoing disaster. That's the truth. And then Doc Anton Lim, whose yellow boats have become a springboard of opportunity for disaster mitigation and accessibility to education, environmental protection, to livelihoods, and so on. And all of these are done with primary stakeholders. He says it starts with one. And as he and others have shown, it quickly spreads. Then we had the relatively younger set of Jen, Jai, and Trisha, and their stories are all equally great examples of what can be achieved if we subscribe to the basic values of dignity and respect for the individual. Trisha reminds us through Tayo that the young have, collective energy, and this is an unbeatable kind of energy. I'm so proud. I launched Tayo years ago when I was in my other life in advertising. And then Jai, who works with the Maranao folks with Super Lumba and Palapa. So it's such a good condiment, I tell you. As a social enterprise that began among mothers and then has spread to working students, employing more and more people. And now, of course, the husbands want to have something to do with it as well, which is great. And you have all these other projects going that have more to do with the youth. That's tremendous, and we wish you Godspeed in that. Jen, very moving story also. She's clearly someone very involved in the journey of the foundation. She shared with us sustainable area developments that lead to multiple impacts that cross, that sort of cross over the different sectors. But most importantly, I think we all got a glimpse of how Gunj does it and what it does, how Gunj does what it does, rather. And it is a remarkable story, isn't it? Where not an ounce of the 6,000 tons of materials they get annually goes to waste if they can help it. Not a button or a staple or a sheet of paper, let alone a lone shoe. I listed down a few lines that spoke to me. Hopefully they spoke to you too. We are born into circumstances over which we have no control, so we all deserve the same respect and dignity. We contribute what is useful still to us. We don't contribute what we can no longer use. I mean, it's not a discarded thing. It has to be useful in order for us to contribute it. Some things Gunj does not do, use sad pictures or use the words donor, beneficiary, charity. Rather, everyone is a contributor and therefore a stakeholder. Gunj gives materials a second life. I like that. And later he said, materials are treated with respect and dignity. So he restores respect and dignity to materials. And he also said that at Gunj, nothing is given for free. Yeah, you have to earn it, right? Of course, the line that is most often repeated is poverty is a continuing human disaster. And I think that line will stay with us long after this webinar is over. I think, but most important, I think what ANSHU shared with us is that it is so important to truly see, to ensure that we do not get so used to the poverty and the deprivation around us that we no longer see it. Okay, because it's so easy to make that happen. Or that we don't anymore recognize what can be done to alleviate it. And I guess we can end with the reminder that when we change our perception, that is when we really begin to see, and that is when we begin to change the world around us. So that was a very worthwhile afternoon, I thought. I hope you did too. Back to you, CT.
Thank you so much, Miss Emily. Maybe request ANSHU. Just a final message and from you and maybe Meenakshi. Thank you. Yeah. ANSHU, take it away.
I think I've been speaking and I've been listening, and I think for me it was a beautiful afternoon to listen also, because one of the biggest problem with people like us, and I say us, is that we go speak and then sit with a coffee and that's just enjoy. We don't listen. So I think it's such amazing stories, such amazing reflection. It's very humbling. Uh, I think just a couple of very last point is that this virus has, if we accept, virus has been able to make a huge dent uh, in our thought process and everything. I mean, the biggest possible airports and the machines ultimately didn't work. The biggest possible hospitals were also closed in many cases, and the things which we were ignoring, right, from the last mile health worker to the government hospitals, is what worked well. I think it also taught us how important is the relationship when we were confined, or when we are forced, or when we are happily living with each other. I mean, the person like me who used to travel 15-20 days a month, every month, I don't remember staying in one city for 6 months. Staying at home is an absolute, unimaginable thing. So that has taught us a lot. I think we should just turn it around in terms of the humanity and the people, because of whom we are staying at home. So one of the things which we all need to remember, that people who made houses for us remained homeless, and people who have been feeding us so that we can sit in this webinar and talk and go on with our work are actually called the so-called beneficiaries. So someone who, because of whom we are the beneficiaries right from my birth till date, and will remain beneficiary, the farmer and the people, we call them beneficiaries. So that definition certainly has to turn around, because every single person whose food was secured remain inside home in this pandemic, and where the food was not secured, that person was forced to move out in that kind of risk. I think that is what we all need to take back and do as much as we can. So if last year we did 10, we have no option but to do 100 this year, because we are privileged that we can at least do something. All of us in this panel, it's so beautiful to listen to Dr. Anton, Jen, and so many other people. And please, one thing is that I often say that now for some time we don't need thinkers anymore. We actually need doers. uh, we need action. So whatever we think, if we feel good, it should just turn around in an action. Thank you very much for organizing this, for bringing such beautiful people to talk to listen to watch. And I'm waiting. I'm sick and tired of virtual hugs now. I'm waiting for a day when we can actually do the actual hug. And please count us in for any work in Philippines. As of now, virtually, but the moment it opens up physically, we will come, we will sit together, spend time together, have some beer together. We'll do something together
You were
to
supposed
make
to
it a
visit
meaningful thing.
Bicol.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anshu, you were supposed to visit Bicol.
Yes,
But it,
I will. I
As
will.
I
because of
said, he
the
sent a
pandemic, it could
typhoon.
not
I will.
happen.
I will. I'll come. I'll come. As soon as the virus permits us, I'll be there. You know? But before that, let's start working together uh, by, through when the entire world is operating through a virtual medium, we can also do that for the time being, for sure,
Yeah.
and do something. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes,
Meenakshi.
there she is. Quick, Meenakshi.
Yeah, before I lose the connection. No, I just wanted to say on a very real note about being in COVID. I think one thing that COVID has done is that it's reminded that we are a global family, and we are not, into these geographies. And all of us know, people, especially in this part of the world, know that these disasters, COVID is not just one. We can all see that there will be many more coming in. And it is a very, very laudable effort by the Magsaysay Foundation to bring these two countries, people, doers in these two countries to come together in a stronger way, in a more powerful way to learn, for ideas to move across borders, so that we are able to deal with the coming disasters in a much better way. My congratulations to the foundation, and humble submission, that very inspired by all the work that I'm we got to know about today. Thank you for making us a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you again to all the speakers. Doc Anton, Millie, Miss Jen, Trish,
Dinky.
Jai, and of course, Miss Dinky.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Thank you, Miss Emily, for the very wonderful
My pleasure.
summary and highlights.
Always my pleasure.
Allow me to thank my team who made this webinar possible, Tina Pavia, and her deputies, Emmy Cinco, Ms. Masaki, and Kenny, our social media head, and floor director, Vic Platon, our IT person who made this webinar possible. Nino Asis, thank you. The Facebook team, we are live stream on Facebook, Noe and Kat, and to our graphics artist, Kyle Hayoge. Thank you so much. Team, you know, I owe you a lot. Thank you so much. Congratulations to everyone, to all our participants who have stayed. Thank you so much. Sir Ernie, thank you for staying. Namaste.
Namaste.
Stay safe.
Namaste. Namaste.
Yes.
Stay safe. Stay healthy. Marami pong salamat.